Welcome to the DT podcast, episode 31. How are you guys doing today? I'm joined here by my co-host, Trihex, and we are going to talk about stuff today. Cool.
Yeah, we have a great podcast for you today. We got probably recapping the Democratic debates from last night. We have an open dialogue about open versus closed relationships. I'd love to get into it. We ran out of time to do last week. And we got some lighthearted clickbaity stuff like Taco Bell just casually recalling 2.3 million pounds of seasoned beef. Any Taco Bell fans out there? No crickets, nothing.
No. Who would come out and say like I'm a fan of Taco Bell?
Bro, are you kidding me? Like, have you not seen? Honestly, I don't know who's a bigger consumer. Is it millennials or is it Zoomers now? I kind of wonder. I feel like
it's
millennials
gotta
were
be
conditioned
millennials. Millennials have like jobs and shit, like and make more money than Zoomers, which would
They
be
make
Gen
more
Z
money. At the same time, though, the little money that Zoomers have, though, I mean, if you got $5, I mean, where are you gonna go, right? Like, if you have only $5, where would a Zoomer go eat
consumers
at?
for Taco Bell? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Honestly, I don't know. I'm not a fucking Zoomer, so I wouldn't fucking know at this point. I don't know what a 16-year-old even does these days. Like, I'm so far removed. I realize with mumble rap and just like some of the modern music now that I don't even know. I think I'm so far removed from what the typical 15-year-old is thinking or feeling at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I feel for them, but I don't know what.
I guess like even for poor food, like I would rather go McDonald's. Or maybe I'm biased. I remember when I was super poor, I survived off of those McDonald's double cheeseburgers. $2 would get you 2 double cheeseburgers at McDonald's, and that would be like a full fucking dinner for me. Holy shit, that was crazy.
Bro, do you remember when the '08 recession happened and like Burger King? Not saying I enjoy Burger King, but Burger King had the buck double, where it was a double cheese, double patty, like decently sized double cheeseburger for $1.
Nope.
And it was confirmed to be a loss leader for Burger King. Like, it was meant to get you in the door
to then buy soft drinks and fries and shit.
Yeah, soft drinks and fries that were all high profit margin. And bro, like all my friends were on that shit, dude. We all would go there and just everyone order like 3 to 4 buck doubles, cup of water, and just like live off of that.
That's crazy. I never oh yeah, the cup of water, and then you'll get Sprite or some shit.
Of course.
Yeah, I never actually I used to like Burger King burgers. I don't know what changed. I used to think that Burger King burgers were a little bit better than the McDonald's ones, but McDonald's was cheaper. So
then you moved to Glendale, and now you're like you're gluten free.
Well, this was like 10 years ago, okay? And I'm not gluten free or vegan. Nice try though. Okay.
You sure you're not? Because Cory Booker sure as fuck bragged about it a fuck ton last night.
God.
He sure let me know
he's the only vegan on this. Yeah, he played right into the stereotype.
As the only vegan. Oh, dude, was so. We're gonna get to that
Burger King. Here was the downfall of Burger King. Okay, I'm really sorry. My chat disagrees with me sometimes on my food takes, even though everything I say is objectively just 100% true. But I'm gonna drop a true facts here. Okay, if you disagree with it, you need to step back and reconsider. Okay, this was the sign of the end. Okay, this was like the true beginning of the downfall for Burger King. When Burger King decided to make their French fries fat. One of the worst decisions. Burger King at a point in time actually had better French fries than McDonald's, and then they switched to fat ass nasty fucking no crinkle, no flavor, huge hunks of fucking potato French fries. It was such a bad, and they're still like that. They're horrible. Oh my god.
I haven't had Burger King in so long. I don't even remember. Was this whenever they had the whole fry pod marketing? Where it was like,
maybe actually that might have come later, but like they like stealthily changed it. They tried to market it as good. But
fries?
Yeah, those are actually good. I'll eat those.
Okay, because this is like my last time I ever had Burger King actively. It was pretty much before 2009, because that's whenever I got like the food poisoning, and I was like, all right, dude, I can't be eating fast food every single day. Like I clearly feel like shit, and I have to become healthier now. So 2009, I got woke on just like wanting to like give a shit about my health style, my health and lifestyle. So I just immediately cut cold on a lot of bad things, which included Burger King.
Yeah.
So I'm not really familiar with their menu at this point, so I don't even know like what their fries are.
Well, we can't all be diet elitists like you, Triax. So.
Oh my god, because clearly I'm just sitting here, shitting on everyone in chat for obviously consuming Taco Bell regularly. I hope you enjoy your metal shavings and your ground beef, by the way.
What the fuck?
Oh yeah,
In-N-Out fries are actually good with a little bit of salt and pepper. That's actually a bannable comment. But okay. Oh, real quick. Wait, we should talk about this real quick. We
Yep.
brought this up before the show. I think we mentioned this before. You mentioned how it feels shit to you that you like people go to you to ask like how is try hard used as an emote, like you're like the token representative or whatever. I think we talked about this like many episodes, but like this is like a phenomenon in society where if you're a minority character, you're usually called in as a representative of your whatever class you are, and this only happens to people that aren't like the majority. So like as an example of this, if I do something like really bad or really stupid, no one is ever going to say that like I make all men look bad or I make all white people look bad. It just never happens because like white, male, like straight is like the kind of like the default. But if you do something bad, then it's going to be like, trihex, you're kind of making black people look bad here. Or like this makes black people look bad, right? Like if you're a minority person, you're always kind of like called as like you're treated as like a representative of like your entire race. It's never like bad on its own. You're making like your whole group bad. Or I don't know if you've seen this in esports, but like if a guy does something bad in esports, nobody ever says like, oh, you're making all men look bad. But if a woman does something bad in esports, it's like, oh, well, this is hurting like all women in esports now. It's like, yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's effectively, it's double standard effectively. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, that's just like an interesting kind of shitty thing that minority people kind of deal with in a lot of different areas.
Oh, I thought you had a resolve here. I was like, okay, I'm ready to hear like,
Nope.
the resolve.
There is no resolve. That's just a phenomenon that you have to deal with, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Oh, another good example of this is like this is like one of my favorite examples. Did you watch the Ghostbusters 1 and 2?
Whew, it's been a long time.
Long time. You're familiar, like
people. The new one.
People didn't like
Go on.
Ghostbusters 2 that much. I'm talking about Ghostbusters 2, not the remake, but the Ghostbusters 2, the
okay.
one where they use
Right.
like the sludge or whatever on the painting guy. But like nobody in the history of like all of mankind has ever said like that movie was bad because it was all men. No one's ever said that. But if you've got a movie with a cast of all women, instead of just saying like, oh well, that was a shit movie, that was a shit movie because it had women in it, right? Like it's like an interesting thing, yeah.
Yeah, 2016 Ghostbusters got a lot of bust back because it was like I don't know, some men took it to offense that it was like a all-female cast or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like, well, nothing is ever bad because it's an all-male cast, but there can be bad things because they're all-female cast. Or like if you cast a character that's like straight or trans, like, oh, well, this is a shitty movie because you have a gay character for no reason. It's like, okay, well, firstly, we don't need reasons to be gay. And secondly, like you've never said this is a shit movie because of a straight character for no reason, right? You just assume that that's the default. The reason why this happens is because like you have an assumed default role, which is typically like white, straight, affluent, English-speaking male. And anytime you deviate from that, well, you need a reason, right? How many times have you heard somebody say like, why did that character have to be black? Why did that character have to be Asian? Why did that character have to be a female or gay? And it's like, well, in real life, people just are. They don't need reasons. But anytime you deviate, you like have to justify it, you know? Yeah.
No, you're actually right, and I was a victim to this. Honestly, I actually, if I want to recall here from the past, there was a past episode of DD Podcast where I was like, why? What did I say here, dude? I said, did you feel that making Tracer gay as canon was a minority plea or like a a diversity plea, right?
Yeah.
And then you called me out, and I was like, oh, you're right. Actually, I'm a victim of that conditioning where cis white male is the stock characteristics here.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't have to be a reason. It should just magically be like,
Yeah, I've made similar arguments in the past that I think are kind of dumb now looking back on it. I don't know if maybe I'll change my opinion on this in the future. I still don't like when somebody makes somebody like oh man, hold on. Let's see. I don't know if this is going to be really dumb what I'm about to say. I don't like it when people make like an LGBT character in like a show and their LGBTness is literally the entirety of their identity.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
Trait.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a little bit like it still leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Maybe that's a dumb opinion of me, but yeah, I don't know. I'm still not comfortable with that. I always thought that
it doesn't normalize. It feels like it's overreaching. Well, I get the intention of the overreach to give more light on, I guess, what it's like to be gay or LGBTQ. But yeah, it comes off as like disingenuous and or just like
like when you have like the gay character that's like, hey, so I'm gonna go sip a Cosmopolitan and then go back to my fashion designer job. Like I guess it's like it's not horrible, but it's like if that's like the only kind of gay representation you get in media, it's like, oh, I guess all gay people are literally like fashion designing, like martini metrosexual-esque people. Yeah. I don't know if that's an okay word. I always thought one of my favorite examples was
I was using that one on purpose, like because it's a shitty word.
Yeah. Did you ever see the Dexter show?
No, but I have heard great things about it.
I always thought like a really good example was like there was a guy, one of the like people that Dexter like hunts for a little bit and then helps or whatever, who's like a murderer assassin guy, ends up being gay. But it's just like he was just gay. I think he had a boyfriend. They referenced it and everything, but he wasn't like super like flamboyant or metrosexual. Like he was like, yeah, I don't know. I think that kind of representation is good. Or like in James Bond, that gay character in one of the James Bond movies, was it Skyfall? With the enemy guy that was, I think he was gay, but he was also like gay and really creepy about it. Yeah. Oh, Omar Little from The Wire is a really good example of a gay. Yeah, for sure. That was.
I didn't see Skyfall. I only saw Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace.
Sure. But
I didn't see Skyfall.
Okay.
But no, yeah, I hear you loud and clear on that one though. Yeah, I even I've been victim of it though. Even I've met some friends who I found out like later in the conversation that they were gay, and it kind of caught me off guard because I was like, because I just I just filled in the blanks. The Google autofill is straight white male until, or I guess, or something along that line. Just cis white male until I hear otherwise. There was no flamboyancy in their gayness, and I didn't know any better. And so whenever it was like, oh cool, that's actually cool, it kind of caught me off guard. Like, not that I was generally inferring here, but I thought that was like I realized that sociology was kind of at play.
Yeah, and like LGBT people come like in all flavors. There was actually, I'll send this to you after. There was a really good I don't know if this was Vox. I don't think it was, or like Vice or something. There was like a 10-minute thing on the difference between gay voices and straight voices. And they walk you through the life of like two different men for like 2 minutes each. One guy with a very deep masculine voice, the other guy with like the very high like feminine voice. And then the guy talks about how like some gay people model their voices differently, or some people model their voices off the mother versus the father, and it goes into the differences. And then at the end, they pull the big switcheroo, and you find out the guy with the high voice is actually very super straight, and the guy with the very low masculine voice is actually like the super gay one. And it's like, I had a moment like this actually, yeah. And even I didn't realize this until I went to a PAX West, like 4 years ago, I think 3 or 4 years ago, and I stayed with it was me and my girlfriend and then 3 gay guys, but all of them, I don't know if I should say like they sounded straight, but they weren't like the stereotypical like gay voice or whatever. And I never even considered it up to that point. They're like, oh wait, there are probably like a lot of gay people that don't have like the gay accent and like do the like the very flamboyant things. Like there's probably like a lot of people that just like look like everybody else or whatever that are gay.
Yeah, the longer I hang out in like California, if I ever go visit Twitch HQ or if I'm in San Francisco a lot, like the diversity pool is so strong there that you don't get that. You really can't make a read on any of that there. I don't know who's gay. I don't know who's straight. It doesn't really bother me or concern me. I treat everyone the same regardless.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just, you don't know really.
Yeah.
Wish I had a cool story to tell you about that, but it was like, just, I don't know. Everyone is so diverse there or the pool is so diverse there that I just don't really know. Gaydar effectively doesn't exist to me in SF. Sure. Comparatively. At least compared out here, then you come back to Louisiana and it's like just super very different out here by comparison.
Okay. All right. But what are we going to first? What do you want? What do you want?
What do I got here? Well, let's see. I got a well, we got the elephant in the room here is obviously the dim debates. I don't know. Do you prefer that we do the big topics that can obviously bleed over time, or do we do the small topics that will close quickly and then leave the big ones towards the end? I'm not really sure. Like, we haven't really discussed the meta of what we want to do with our 2-hour time slot here.
Hit the small ones first.
Hit the small ones first?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see here. So we got if you want to go over a cool one I got for you, there is. So speaking of San Francisco.
Oh my God.
Oh, what's up?
I read a comment yesterday that was such a good comment. Do you want to talk about the China shit while this is in my head?
No, yeah. So by China, you mean the Blizzard? Yeah. The Blizzard reaction to Hong Kong
I'm actually
protest?
So.
Or like the LeBron NBA stuff.
This is the only time in my life. In general, the LeBron and the Blizzard stuff, all of it. This is the first time in my life where somebody wrote a comment and I read it and I was like, I am so disappointed that I didn't think of this on the spot.
Ooh. Okay.
China censorship. That's what we'll call this section. So when I was on the Scuffed podcast with Trainwrecks and a bunch of other people, Jake was there, right? And when we started talking about the China stuff, everybody wanted to be careful, and everybody wanted to like mute and talk to Jake and make sure that it was okay for him to say stuff before he had to leave, right? And eventually,
I'm sorry.
What?
Jake?
I'm sorry. Jake and Bake is like an IRL streamer that spends a lot of time in China.
Oh, Jake.
Yeah.
Well, why would Jacob make me consulting beforehand? Is he like?
Because he goes to China, in and out of China a lot. He's a really big streamer. So like, if he says like stuff that's too negative about the Chinese government, he might get banned from entering or something like that, right?
Okay.
So all of us were everyone on the podcast, me included, we're sympathetic to Jake. We didn't want him to like do anything that would harm his ability to go to China or anything like that. So we were like, okay, well, you can just say a couple words and leave, because all of us were friends with Jake. And then he said a couple things and he left, and then we started talking about the Chinese topic. Do you know what like pretty much everybody else like was kind of saying, except for like me and Devin, I think? Was that like more? It was about like the Blizzard topic, that basically like Blizzard was a cuck, they were selling out hard, that the Chinese shit is horrible, that that like companies shouldn't fold over for China and all that stuff. Like basically like the same narratives that you're hearing about LeBron now and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
One thing though that somebody pointed out was nobody called out Jake for doing essentially what we're criticizing Blizzard and LeBron and everybody else for doing, which is Jake actually. And all of us defended Jake folding to not saying anything bad about China, because all of us on that podcast wanted Jake to be able to go to China and to do things and to not jeopardize his position there. But nobody on the podcast thought of that. And then everybody went back to railing on Blizzard, like, oh, like Blizzard's cucking out. They're doing things just so that they can maintain their foothold in China, blah, 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 blah. But nobody had a problem with Jake leaving the podcast to protect his position there. That's, yeah, I thought that was like super.
I guess the difference there is that, like, you know, the other ones, you know, we can just attack a corporation for bowing to an external government, but like,
I mean, you can say that, but that's like the really like child way to view it. The real fact,
for
yeah.
Sure.
Because the real fact is that, like, if Blizzard were to get hurt, people are going to get fired from their job. People are going to get laid off. People might get paid less. Like, that's going to have a downstream impact. It's not like Blizzard or anybody's going to keep the same employee base where they lose that whole market. Like, there's people's jobs that are going to be impacted by that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. But
people are saying his girlfriend is Chinese. I bet Blizzard employees have made Chinese girlfriends.
My minor thing there would probably be, well, if the game developers were able to unionize, maybe they have better protections against the folding of the company. I don't know. It's kind of like you're entering a toxic shithole and you're expecting to be treated fairly. Ultimately, when obviously they need unions to be able to be protected better.
Well, not even. It doesn't matter. Like
Dwayne Johnson, 2020.
There's no way that like you have access to a Chinese market, you lose that whole market, and a union protects all those jobs. Like they're gonna get laid off. Like there's no possible negotiation there that's gonna keep them there, right?
Certainly, yeah. But at the same time, I don't know. If you don't view the Chinese government as morally aligned with what you would personally want, then I don't know. It's like, what's the greater good here? Is the greater good always economic populace versus like?
Well, no, I actually like the idea of people like going out and like, because it's our job to do it. Corporations aren't going to do it. It's our job to step out. We're not publicly traded ones. It's our job to step out and say like, hey, this is fucked. This is wrong. So like, I think it's fair to criticize people like LeBron. Like LeBron, you need to step out and speak against this. Like this is like, if anyone's going to do it, it's fucking you, right? Like Jesus Christ.
Right.
Like you're
if he doesn't do it, then there's no checks and balances. Effectively, just get steamrolled, right?
Yeah. What is his net worth? Is he 450 million? Like you can afford to do this, dog. Like you can step out and say something. But arguably, you could say that like people like Jake maybe too. Although, yeah, I mean it sucks, but like, yeah, I don't know. That was an interesting point that was brought up to me.
No, that's a very valid thing. Actually, don't know. Do we have because when we talked about last week here, we didn't have the resolve. Now we now have. I think after our episode last week, Activision Blizzard responded to the whole thing, giving their statement and reduced the infractions distributed now, where he's only getting I forget his name here. I know because of the I know he had a year suspension and lost all of his tournament revenue. Now he's getting all of his tournament revenue, is only getting a 6-month suspension. Recall. So they've kind of like they've tried to like quote unquote course correct a little bit more and said that the Chinese censorship or Chinese like government possibility of being of having their statements misconstrued had nothing to do with it. Just like, okay, whatever, dude.
Yeah. Didn't they say they were gonna give him his prize money too, right? They were gonna undo that retroactive.
They were gonna give back his prize money, his tournament revenue, and only give him 6 months rather than 12 months off of suspension from the tournament league. But what I was like, why did I bring this up? I was going somewhere with this now.
We were talking about Jake and Bake, China, censorship, LeBron James, unions, companies.
Okay. Yeah, so that too, actually. So I know LeBron said that the initial thing, right? The tweet from the Houston Rockets owner or CEO, whatever he is. That's what started the whole thing, right? That's what started the whole NBA incident. But then LeBron commented on it this week saying that he didn't know all the context, that the Houston Rockets guy didn't know all the context, right? And kind of wanted to like dial it back in a little bit more. What happened since then with LeBron though? That's kind of my question. I think he had another comment since then, but I didn't get to catch what he had said. If you happen to know.
I don't know. I haven't followed the LeBron stuff that much. I just know that people are being super critical of him because apparently he walked back a harsher statement on China, and people see it as like cucking out for money or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Man. Yeah, it's a tough situation to be in for LeBron or really anybody, because you have to be like I don't know, all eyes are on you essentially. No matter what you do, like essentially both ends are going to give you backlash, right, from one camp or the other, whether it be
it's hard.
It's hard. Yeah, it's mentally very, very straining. So it's kind of whenever you put it in that situation, you kind of like, just for a lower stress environment, you kind of want to just do status quo and just kind of like pass the hot potato to somebody else and make it someone else's obligation to like say or do anything about that. But fuck me. I'm sorry, dude. I forgot where I was gonna go with this now. I apologize here. I thought I had like one more. There was one more spicy point. There was something about the Blizzard statement and what the gentleman did after that now that I wanted to talk about. Okay. Well, one of the commentators did say that he was gonna quit, right? That he
once somebody stepped down. I don't remember who it was, but yeah.
And I'm wondering where he goes now. You know, because you bring up a good point here, right? There's like there are consequences ultimately. The company, you know, if Activision doesn't secure the Chinese market and continue their revenue shares, they'll lay people off. They do it anyway, by the way. So
people said admirable. I don't know who any of these fucking casters are, so that's admirable.
Yeah, if they don't bow to China, lose the entire country's market. If they don't bow to China, lose the entire country's market. If they bow to China, people in the U.S. will be mad for a week, but it won't hurt them. Which, not entirely wrong, but I guess we'll have to see, right? Really can't say it definitively until we have like until we see the long-term effects of the I guess BlizzCon would be a start, though I imagine that they're gonna probably censor the shit out of BlizzCon. Like they're gonna probably ban Winnie the Pooh cosplays.
I've actually thought about showing up to one of the protests and get some of my people to do it. I think that'd be funny to show up with like the fucking free Hong Kong shit or whatever, and then get kicked out.
Where would you'd go to an NBA game to protest, or you'd go to like BlizzCon?
No, to like BlizzCon to show up with some people to do it. Yeah, fuck it, why not? Okay. I never done like any public Activision, and fuck not Activision, public activism.
Yeah, I got you.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be fun, and I feel like I don't know. I support the Hong Kongers over China. Fuck that. Also, China's gonna rule the world in 20 years anyway.
There are some tangible ramifications so far, though.
I wonder if I'd get like permanently banned from like BlizzCons, or people could do that. Do you think?
I think you're too high profile. If they permanently ban you, because see, if you're like a literal who, if you're just like some like person who's like woke and wanted to do like activism, then they would just like, yeah, fuck you, you're banned for life. But because you're Destiny, and that'll get headlines, and it'll be like a longer, drawn out effect of your fan base being pissed off that you're getting like some like lifetime ban for doing the right thing.
Don't you think it could be the opposite though? Since you're like a big name, like they would like want to show that like this is so unacceptable that like we're gonna make an example of this and ban this person.
I guess it depends on the PR, honestly. I could see it going either way. It depends on what they want out of it. Whether they view this as like a short-term problem or like a long-term problem, you know? I'm not really sure.
I mean, I imagine that...
At the same time, though, I do have to clarify here. It's not just Activision Blizzard. If I recall correctly, the list is pretty extensive right now.
For what?
Activision Blizzard, companies bound to China and to appease them, and not acknowledging Taiwan as a country and some other stuff, right?
Yeah, the Taiwan situation is also really everybody's relationship with China is really complicated. The end of the day is basically that like people say they have these like political stances, but at the end of the day, like everybody's main concern is like their economies, like, and nobody's gonna do anything that hurts them a lot or like fucks with that shit, even if it means like cucking out on some core principle or whatever dumb shit. People don't really give a fuck.
So, but fuck, what was I gonna say? Where was I going with this now? If you were to hypothetically protest at BlizzCon, I could see it going either way. I'm not really sure. I guess it's more about how much do you really care. Would you care if you got lifetime banned from BlizzCon? Probably a little bit, right? It would kind of hurt your opportunity if like there was like a game you really want to play later on or whatever.
I mean, like I'm actually like a pretty big like principles person. So like if this is something I felt strongly about, I think it would be worth getting banned for it. I don't know. I guess I'd have to. I haven't given it like a lot of thought, but I don't get to do like a lot of like actual like activism stuff, like just because I'm generally lazy. So like if this was like a way to actually do something, I don't know. I think it'd be a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, okay. Also, what I want to say too, there have been some consequences though of this whole incident now, though. So the Nintendo World Store in New York City was going to have an event to celebrate the launch of Overwatch on Switch, and that got canceled. I'm guessing, you know, as a precaution because it's probably there's going to be a lot of protesting going on at such an event, obviously. What was the other? There was like one other thing we had here. I know it's like a small thing because it's just Nintendo New York Store. It's not like it's like a huge thing. It was just like a promotional event for one game on the Switch. But there was one other event that had an effect too. Fuck, I'm sorry, I didn't have that topic written down, so I forgive me, I don't remember it at this point. Wow. But yeah, you know, we are seeing, you know, that was a week ago, and we're past the 1 week marker, and we're seeing some consequences now. So, here's my question to you: Do you think that there will be nothing happening at BlizzCon? There'll be no processing at all?
Oh no, of course there will be. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, people will do it. Now the question is, what I'm very interested in is how is Blizzard going to respond to it? That's like the real big question, because they my guess is that they're probably going to have, this is my guess, and this is without thinking about it much, maybe it'd be different. My guess is that they're probably going to have like elevated security, and that anybody that's caught with like Winnie the Pooh shit or whatever is probably going to be escorted out of the premises and probably have their BlizzCon tickets or pass revoked. That'd be my guess.
Here's my the shitter me is like, what could I finesse under plausible deniability that I can then transform into a Winnie the Pooh shit once I'm inside? Like, what could pass through security that I can still like?
Well, the best thing you can do, the biggest meme, this is actually what I would consider doing, especially if I get like a cosplay friend, would be to go dress up as May. Okay. People are trying to turn May into like the symbol of like the revolt or whatever. Yeah. Right. The revolution. Yeah.
By putting her in a gas mask and some other equipment like that, some protest riot gear.
Yeah. So that might be a funny meme to do.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. You know, I love it because it puts Activision in a really awkward spot because they have to say, hey, do we engage with the fans who are doing this, or do we ban the engagement with the fans because they're kind of, you're forcing them in that conflict of like acknowledging, are you for China stuff, or are you for your fan engagement? So
they're really making money.
But yeah, so in hindsight now, let me ask you, okay, so in hindsight, if you had realized the whole different treatment of Jake and Bake when you're on the Scuff podcast, would you have brought it up?
Yeah, 100%.
What if we just would have left and be like, oh shit, well, let me I gotta go.
Well, I think it would have given it wouldn't, it's not so much an argument against like Jake and Bake, because I personally, I don't know what his principles are, or I don't know what he cares about, or what like how he even feels about the Hong Kong situation. If anything, I would say it's probably a lot different to him because he has like personal connections with Chinese people, which probably makes him a little more sympathetic maybe to the Chinese end of things. But yeah, I don't know. Fuck, my fridge beeps sometimes. Hold on.
Smart fridges, y'all. It's crazy, dude.
Fuck my fridge. But
was your produce expiring? Like, why was your fridge
sometimes if it's open, it beeps. Like if you leave it open, it beeps. But like but now it beeps even if it's not open. It just starts beeping sometimes, so I have to go open and close it. It's really annoying.
But I told y'all about them smart fridges. They got the webcams on them, and they staring at you, and they taking your data. I don't trust any of them motherfuckers. I don't trust Microsoft or Google or none of them motherfuckers. Yeah. Anyways, know what's up.
But the argument wouldn't be so much for Jake and Bake. It would be more for like Richard Lewis, and I think it was just Richard Lewis was on the opposite side there.
Okay.
But yeah, to make him consider it, like, well, why were you so cool? Because Richard Lewis was one of like was a big guy and like, oh, Jake, you should leave, like it's gonna damage your reputation or whatever. And it would be interesting to find out, well, why do you support him doing it and not Blizzard? It's like the same thing, kind of, yeah.
Well, at the same time, I feel it's kind of this huge conflict with even like the and forgive me if I'm repeating here, because I feel like this may have been a topic for last week, but like all of the huge, like, what do you do if you're a big World of Warcraft streamer? And you don't like what's going on here? Like, what do you do? Like, what if you're, I don't know, like, hypothetically, like, what if you're like Asmongold and like you think it's like really fucked up or whatever? And do you just like, what do? Do you just stop playing WoW and protest? And like, you know, lose your bread and butter, your 60K viewers or whatever? Or like, I don't know, like at what point it's a lot to put on one person, I would say, or any person in that position ultimately. But at the same time, it's like, he's probably living great from the lifestyle. He probably could afford to if his morals aligned with advocating for this not to happen. I don't want to put his name out there particularly because that puts a lot of pressure on on him individually. But I was trying to give a good example here.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would say that, like, if you really do
wins.
care strongly about it, like, quitting a video game should probably be one of the easier things for you to do. Like, if you can't even do that, you probably either don't care or things that you do care about don't really matter that much to you. Like, I don't think Asmongold and them, like, actually care that much about any of this. Not to blame them. Like, I mean, like, it's fucking Hong Kong. Like, a lot of people didn't even know anything about it until, like, these protests started. So I don't necessarily blame them for it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that any of those streamers, like, care much about what's going on over there.
Gotcha. If we could, one more thing about Hong Kong before we move on here. The apparently I brought up I think I talked about some on stream here a while back, but one of the things I thought was kind of crazy about China's thing here was the implementation of that social credit score, or that citizen score.
Yeah.
And then I got corrected here. Apparently that's actually not implemented yet, and that's only been a discussion so far. Does anyone here have like clarification on whether this is in effect yet?
I've heard memes about it, but I haven't read much about it.
Oh, so sure, I can. So it's essentially like an episode of Black Mirror IRL here. Every citizen gets a citizen score card, kind of like a credit score, but for your citizenship. And if you do things that are deemed positive from the POV of the Chinese government, such as, I don't know, not going to jail, not breaking the law, praising the government, not having any obligation or any kind of like, what's the word here, access to their policies on any of the neutered, censored medias. You'll be granted a higher score, and you'll be able to like buy certain property and even travel, and maybe even travel out of country.
Wow.
If you're considered a good citizen, which is kind of crazy. They implemented it in a test city, not nationwide. Their surveillance cameras detect what minority you are. Oh boy. So yeah, okay, so it's in a test city right now, which is crazy.
Wait,
now
this is, hold on. Breaking news posted in chat by Little Fox. Chipotle charges 90 cents for each side now. Is that true?
What's a side?
Like, I don't know. Like, if you add like vegetables or like cheese, do you get charged for that? Can I get some confirmation on this?
Wait, maybe it means extra sides, because all right, there's a couple things here about Chipotle. Chipotle, you could ask for extra beans and extra rice. Those two things were not quantified. There was no defined charge for those, so you can just ask for like triple rice and they wouldn't give a shit.
Chipotle charge sides. Oh, never mind. There's a post from May asking, but never mind. Okay, sorry, that was a super derail.
Yeah.
Okay, back to China and Hong Kong.
Right. Mega derail. Fuck, what was I going? So another thing here too, I think is really important here, is that if we're gonna talk about China censorship here, China does censor a lot of the internet, right?
Wait, I'm sorry, I could be wrong. I don't think the main internet is even available to Chinese people. Is it?
I was going to say here, because like something I found out this week, I didn't know. I'm glad you brought up China here, because I kind of want to talk to you about it a little bit more here. YouTube in its entirety is banned in China.
So is Twitch.
So is, oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, so I can get why YouTube is. Why is Twitch banned in China?
My guess is just it's live video communication that the Chinese government doesn't have control over. Yeah, I'm pretty sure like even Google is banned. They have like their own like endemic sites too, like in their country, to like kind of replace these as well. So
interesting. Interesting, because like, okay, I get why Twitch isn't popular in Japan, like why you have Nico Video and other services like that, because it's more like Japanese culture, whereas like Twitch is a very like in a culture centric environment.
Yeah, or like in Korea they have like Naver, I think is the name of the boards that everybody like posts on there and shit. Yeah.
But hearing that just YouTube outright is banned, like the #1 video platform on the internet by a very wide margin, banned in China. What is China's population right now? What is it? 1.6? Is it 1.6 billion? Like, just
pretty fucking high, yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking huge. Yeah, that's crazy to me. Well, and then what's the official reason there? Is the same thing, or is the speculation the same thing, that they can't control it because it's not a Chinese domestic product or whatever?
Maybe, probably. Oh man, what would be super interesting would be if imagine if Twitch made like a small concession so that we could start streaming on China And imagine people like Asmongold or SFan, like people that play WoW. Imagine they started to pick up like tens of thousands of viewers, and they're getting like 100,000 viewers average, with like 70% of their audiences being Chinese. Let's say that another situation like this comes up. Do you think those people would side with like, okay, yeah, fuck China? Or you think those people would be like, well, hold on, guys. Like, maybe China's not all that bad. Like, maybe we should be respectful of their culture. That would be so interesting to me.
Everyone has a price.
Yep.
The real social experiment.
Because now they would have something at stake, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very valid one. Damn. I mean, even like, I mean, shit. Let me think here. I mean, there's not as dramatic of an example there. That's actually that's a super crazy episode of Black Mirror. I'd love to see happen, and love to see like come to fruition, reality in some situation. But there's obviously there's a lot of people here who a lot of the Twitch audience I find is really hard on really hardcore for Andrew Yang because of the some are just calling it obviously it's universal basic income, it's UBI, it's freedom dividends, but for them it's neat bucks, right? NEET. Not neat bucks, and they just want that free money so they can just like I don't know, survive off of 1K a month and just like do the Mountain Dew, ramen, porn, Twitch diet and just survive in the perpetual nothingness forever.
Yeah.
So you have that bias in effect right there as well.
Yeah, of course. Wait, was there a point to that, or just bringing up that people support Andrew Yang because they want the?
No, I mean it was kind of a parallel to there. Like I mean.
That people are like, I see, yeah. That people are financially incentivized to have certain beliefs.
We're biased towards having unmeasurable amount of success from the Chinese market. In the same sense here, that same immeasurable convenience being had by UBI for Andrew Yang. So they're like biased towards that here.
Yeah.
It's not directly comparable because I can't really take Andrew Yang minus UBI and say that it's like you would still vote for him because that's like his defining trait essentially. Yeah. But
I almost thought dude, it would have been so funny if during the international section, if he would have been like, you know what, guys, this is how we're gonna fix problems across the world. Okay, not only we're gonna have a freedom dividend, we're gonna have an America dividend. We're gonna pay people $1,000 a month all over the world to be our allies. Oh shit!
Wow.
Andrew Yang is a funny guy. I guess we could segue into the fucking debates.
Dim debates. Did you watch last night? I assume so, right?
Yeah, it sucked watching it. But
it always sucks. It's gonna suck until people drop out, dude.
Oh no, I meant it sucked because we couldn't broadcast it on Twitch, so like it was like really hard to do it.
No, that too. Yeah, it was. Yeah, super garbage. Democratic debates. All right, this is gonna be a super. I don't know what topic we're gonna start with here. Well, first let's go into a couple of things here, right? So it's of note here that it was hosted by CNN. So CNN's parent company, Time Warner. If you recall here, I'm sure you know very well. We all got clapped in August. We all got Thanos snapped. We all got DMCA'd, Digital Millennium Copyright Act. We all got a hit for infringing on copyrighted materials without permission.
Yeah, we did.
Right. So me, Destiny, Hassan, David Pacman, even on the YouTube end, amongst us, all got slapped down with manually tagged infractions and infringements for copyright from CNN. Be damned if it was transformative content. Be damned if it was fair use. Private company, private corporation, get fucked. And then so now we've all learned our lessons. We know with them we can't play. So I toned down considerably. I didn't use any of their footage in September. I played it super safe because I didn't want to get another strike on my goddamn channel. Others got woke as well here. But sadly, last night, David Pacman and Majority Report of Sam Cedar, two other progressive channels that have like unpartnered affiliate tier Twitch channels, because they had recently moved over to Twitch as well to complement their YouTube channels. Both of them got DMCA'd last night. Actually, they both got taken down.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I don't know why people were saying it was very irritating to me. People were saying that like the only reason we got DMCA'd is because we were partners. It doesn't make sense at all. Why would you think you can't DMCA?
But it's true. I'm not saying that it's not wrong, but literally Pac-Man and Majority Report and a few others were all who were unpartnered were streaming the full thing with them green screen in front of the CNN footage.
There must have been some other, because like you can file a DMCA against anybody. Like it doesn't, like why would the people filing know who's partnered or not? Like I don't think that matters at all. We either got lucky.
Well, to be fair, I mean this was like 2 months ago. Both of them had very young channels. I don't even think Pac-Man had viewers when he was doing it that night compared to like, you know, me, you, and everyone else.
Yeah.
Like we were at the top of just chatting with the whole like thing.
Yeah. Because like if you like everybody can go try right now. Like, you can find like the DMCA file forms. Like it has nothing to do with like, oh, if this person is partnered, they'll get banned. But if they're not partnered, they can infringe on your copyright. Like no one would ever have that policy. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I just want to bring up here to, you know, F in chat because two of our boys got slapped down, but you know I don't think either of them really gave a shit because they're not a partner anyway, and so their Twitch is not like, you know, massive collateral for them to lose if it like gets, you know, further fucked left and right here.
Yeah.
Of note though, I didn't this time around. I only showed the subtitles from the stream that people can sync along with me and know where I am when I'm watching and commentating on it. How did you get around to it? Because obviously I would assume you streamed during the debates, but how did you cover it to avoid copyright?
I mean, I just listened to it, but it was pretty shit. Like I think I got like 4,000 viewers. It was compared to like 20,000 last time. So it was pretty hard to like. It was a lot less engaging, obviously. And then it was kind of like, it was kind of harder to like, I didn't want to talk along as much because if people are off by like even a few seconds, like anything I say is like totally ruined. Like I might start talking about something that somebody hasn't even heard yet. So yeah, like the syncing issues are very real. Yeah,
for sure. I hear you on that one too. Yeah, I was normally getting like upwards of 4K, and now it's like it's a pretty terrible watch. It's just me in front of a green screen essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super unfortunate.
Hopefully, somebody besides CNN does the next.
Well, here's the good news. That's already confirmed. It's going to be MSNBC.
Okay. Well, I wonder who's gonna. Are we all gonna test the waters on that?
Yeah, dude. No. Like
I probably will. Fuck it.
Dude, wait, okay. Let's talk about that actually. Okay, so you're willing to test out. So if you get another DMCA, they're permanent, right? They don't go away after 1 year, if I understand. I could be wrong. I don't really know, but like you're aware that once you're on 2, you're on thin ice. Like the third one, you get permabanned, right?
Maybe. I've heard maybe not. Maybe though. No, you're right. If I'm pretty confident that I'm going to get a second DMCA strike that's going to last forever, I won't do it. I'll say that.
Yeah, because now what happens is once you're under 2, the whole game changes now. Because now it's like watching
no more music, YouTube, everything gets really scary.
You want to listen to Chance the Rapper's new album. You're like, man, fuck that shit, because people are getting clapped for listening to albums now from record companies, which are just like hot in the pants for a copyright claim. You could watch you could be doing something gentle, like watching some random ass National Geographic documentary about some random cool shit. And then, because now Nat Geo's under Disney's blanket with Disney Plus, now you got some fucks stick at Disney Plus ready to strike anyone who's gonna, infringe on their property, because they want all the fucks to go to their streaming services now for their shit.
Yeah.
So they hit you with the fat one right there too. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like you're under such hot water now that it's got to be you and your live band behind you playing music, or else you're getting copyright striked. So it's like ridiculous now. So yeah, I would tell you not to do it. Being under 1 strike versus 2 is a whole different world.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Unless you're ready to go to D Live.
No, God, with Nick Fuentes.
Dude. but you'd be the king though, dude. You'd be the king. Like, dude, D Live, man. Look. I went over there out of curiosity one time. There's one guy there who gets like 2K viewers playing I think NBA 2K20 or whatever, and then it would be you. Like you'd be the ninja of that. You'd be the Gyarados in the little Magikarp pond over there. Think about it.
But do you really want to be like the Gyarados in like the small pond, or would you rather be a Magikarp in a big sea, right?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, I mean, I could go be the biggest streamer on a few different platforms. It doesn't mean I want to do it, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was kind of being a shitter. It's not a real thing.
Yeah.
But
in terms of the debates themselves, I thought Warren was getting attacked by everybody. Holy shit.
You thought so? I thought she got some softballs. Well,
really? All the other candidates were going in on her about the Medicare attacks came up again. I think Pete brought them up. The idea that Medicare for all is kind of scary. Taking away people's private health insurance is a pretty big. That's a pretty tall order. I think she fended off the attacks like pretty well, but I mean, she had like so much speaking time. I think she had by far like the most speaking time compared to anyone else.
Actually, you bring up speaking time here. So if we're gonna go into speaking time here, freaking Klobuchar had a fuck ton of it. I felt like maybe because I don't like her, I don't know, but like, dude, she had upwards of I think it was almost 14 minutes of speaking time, so she was like amongst the top 5.
Does anybody have a link to the final tallied speaking times?
Yeah, let me get that for you. I had that yesterday. Okay, anyway.
All right, cool. I got it. Yeah, she was actually third at 13 minutes. That was pretty surprising.
Yeah, I have that too, actually.
I feel like she has like a lot of good things to say, but she's so unlikable. I don't think she ever gets far. But I don't know. I could be wrong, I guess.
Yeah, it's actually crazy that Biden had that much time. I feel like he didn't talk that often. Maybe it was just a lot of like stumbling and fumbling. I admit this is his best performance so far, but it still was incredibly mediocre and/or bad to me.
Biden's?
His closing statement for a call to action and using some actual emotion was good, but he still fumbled in a lot of areas, in my opinion.
I think his closing statement was pretty good, but I don't think it worked because of how lackluster the rest of his performance was. I think his best performance, was the second debate that he had. I think. Obviously, record player. Wait, when was record player Joe? Was that the second one or was that the third one?
Was the second debate the Fuck, I'm confusing now. Wait. Fuck, this started in July, right? Which one was the text 38 BOB or whatever the fuck it was? Record player and the texting number one the same one? I don't even remember anymore.
Might have been. I remember there was one debate where Biden was like pretty awake and pretty on top of things, and I was really surprised. It was either the first or second. And then the one after that was like, you had record player Joe, you had Joe 30330.com, a lot of weird shit. I feel like Biden and Bernie like were pretty similar in this debate. They didn't like say anything amazing. They didn't like fall off too hard. I don't think either of them are probably going to move that much after this. Sanders didn't really have he didn't even have much speaking time, but I don't know. I don't feel like he had anything to say that much.
There was he didn't get called on for almost the entire middle hour. I feel like that was definitely to me, it's a very evident CNN ploy here. From what I understand at this point now, your corporatists that are going to back your typical corporate Dem or your trademark Democrat, they're understanding at this point now that your typical go-to corporate Dems like Harris and Booker are not climbing. They're stagnant, and that they got to bail ship. If you try to back them really hardcore, you're getting a bad investment here. They see now out of the two progressives here, whether it be Elizabeth Warren or Sanders, that Biden is flailing, or the reception is he's flailing because of his mediocre performance at this point now. That like obviously you'd rather Warren over Sanders, because Sanders is like something you would say here too radical or Warren's more electable by comparison, especially when she's backing away from Medicare for all at this point. So they want to like kind of give her more fawning coverage and more questions that have more shining.
I mean, I don't think it was just so not to push too hard against the conspiracy here, but I don't think it was just like conspiratorial that Warren spoke so much. Like a lot of other people were talking to her, so she was responding to a lot of other people. Like everybody was taking shots at Warren. I think that's why her speaking time was so high, because she was making so many replies to the people that were kind of attacking her. Also, I don't think Warren has backed away from Medicare for all. Like in Bernie's plan, like she seemed to be defending it on stage, although Bernie defended it better than she did because she's too scared to say taxes will go up for the middle class or whatever. So
yeah, I'm not a fan of that at all. I know you said there's some value to some there's some value to some disingenuous in my opinion disingenuous framing some questions here, like how are you going to pay for it, which I get to.
I mean, that's a good question. It's really expensive. I mean, and ironically, this was one of the only good points that Biden brought up. I don't understand if Biden's like sections of his brain are missing. There are parts where Biden wakes up and he starts bringing up good points. Funding that shit is really fucking hard. Like you can slash entire fundings for entire departments. Like I think Biden brought up the Pentagon and everything related to it, and you'd still only fund this for like a couple months. Like that's a lot of money you got to come up with to make it work.
I mean, we have models that work in other countries. I mean, even now there's like, I think there's like a done projection where it would save 5 trillion over the course of 10 years.
Yeah,
and
but
provide better care for everyone
saving
involved.
money for the entire like country spending on healthcare is not the same as actually finding money to fund it, right? Like you have to like there has to be some major like tax program to bring in new revenue to the government to fund this program. Like it has to be like major.
So while that is true, can we at least agree here that whenever they're asking how are you going to pay for it, it's kind of used in like a kind of like a fear-mongering tactic sense, because it's only focusing on the sting of taxes going up to pay for it, as opposed to like the benefits of there being like lower deductibles and more coverage for everyone involved here.
I mean, it's a real framing. I mean, like ideally, in a perfect world, well, I mean, in any reasonable world where any type of option passes, it should save people money, but you're still going to have to come up with the money for it up front. Like you're still going to have a way to fund it. And neither Bernie nor Warren, in my opinion, have given a good way to do that. Like a wealth tax is not going to bring in the money, the projected money that I think Warren is the one projecting the wealth tax income. It's not going to be what she says.
Yeah, she's the one that's with 2% of the wealth tax.
Yeah.
I think Bernie said that was going to be. Actually, I don't remember the specifics on how he would finance M4A. If that was, I forget if that was subsidized college, if that was M4A that was going to have the tax on Wall Street transactions, amongst other things.
Yeah, the financial transaction tax is a loser of a tax too. Like, I mean, like you can project for it, but like the big problem with a lot of those projections is that a lot of them don't take into account how dramatically certain types of trades are going to stop when they become less profitable. Like if you start putting on I would have to look at more exactly into Bernie's financial transaction tax, but if you start tying a tax to every single trade made in certain types of derivative markets, like there's a chance that you kill off those derivative markets entirely. Now, somebody like Bernie might say like, well, good, fuck those markets, they're exploitative anyway, which is arguable. But okay, well now you've killed them off to a large degree. Where's your new revenue going to come from? Because they're not coming from those markets, right? Like capital isn't stupid. It's not just going to sit there and subject itself to huge fees if there's no money to be made there. Like that capital will flow elsewhere to more tax advantaged situations in the economy. So like, yeah, I don't know. That's like I've seen like a lot of criticisms. Warren's wealth taxes are just not. I don't know. I don't think they're a great idea. A few countries have tried them and have discontinued them. I think there are a couple states.
Yeah, and that was something that Yang had actually Andrew Yang had brought up earlier in the week. Then he used it on stage actually recently, which was that some of those other countries like Germany and a few others here actually took back their wealth taxes. It was creating unintended consequences.
Well, like yeah. So here's like the big problem. So this is something that not a lot of people know right now. Okay. Everybody hates the IRS. People in general hate the IRS. So the Democrats and the Republicans no one is going to go to bat for the IRS. Nobody's ever going to be like, we need to increase funding to the IRS so that they can hold people more accountable to taxes. But the problem is that it's actually a really fucking big deal. The IRS is criminally underfunded right now. Like we could actually make more money if we would give the IRS more money. Whatever money we allocate to the IRS right now, they'll make back like 3 or 5 fold. Like there are billions of dollars in taxable accounts or whatever that are sitting out there that the IRS knows about. They just don't have the resources to go after them because no side wants to come up and like, hey, like maybe we should increase funding the IRS because it would be like politically like a loser of a thing. So when you talk about like implementing a wealth tax, which is one of the most complicated forms of taxation to enforce on top of everything else, like, well, fuck, like the IRS can't go after that. Like that's such a hard thing to do. Like valuing like an entire person's like net worth, like fighting over those valuations, those legal fights are going to be costly. The amount of resources and agents on those jobs is going to be huge. Like it's just not a good, fuck that shit. It's too much. Like I'm in favor. This is why I like income taxes so much. They're super easy to levy, very easy to keep track of, very easy to enforce, easy to understand for the most part. Wealth taxes sound really messy. Like there's going to be a ton of haggling and fighting over that shit. Well, is my vote really valued at this much? What is my house worth? What are these assets worth? Like I don't know.
No, I hear you on that one all loud and clear. So do we know? Okay, so I hear you on how do you secure the funding up front, for sure, no doubt. Do we have any input on how the other countries, I guess the successful countries that we're going to use from like the Nordic models, do we have anything on how they were able to secure the funding up front for their own implementations of Medicare for All? Or not particularly? I
don't know 100%. I'm pretty sure.
I was gonna try better the pregame on this if we brought up here again, so I apologize if I'm not prepared enough here. I didn't have. I
think like for Canada, I think you just pay don't you just pay a healthcare tax? Kind of like how we pay like FICA, like Social Security and Medicare, like we just pay a tax. I think in other countries, don't they just pay a tax for it on their income? Like it's just like that's a thing they pay. Like it's a whole separate like line item on your tax bill. I'm pretty sure in Canada it is. I don't know about in European countries, but like my understanding is that And I don't know why the fuck you guys are bringing up a war and gun control plan to pay for fucking Medicare for all. I don't think you guys have any idea how expensive, how much money $1 trillion is. You're never raising that in taxes on fucking taxing guns, okay? This is a way, like, but yeah, like my understanding is that like, just for so you guys understand, in 2018, the revenue of gun stores in the United States was 11 billion. The revenue, guns and ammo manufacturers had a revenue of 17 billion. Okay, Medicare for all is on the course of trillions of dollars. All right, you're way not even close to paying for this. People have no concept of how large some of these numbers are. Sorry. Okay, wait, what was the original question? What was I? Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure you just have like a line item tax that you pay on your income. So like you would have to, but like imagine how unpopular that would be in the US, proposing like a whole new like thing to go along with like your self-employment tax or whatever. That's going to be like a monumental task to do.
Okay. And then, okay, let's go over, oh man, damn it, I didn't want to, if I derail into policy debate right now, not even debate, just conversation. It's like, we're going to run so over time here,
sure.
But like, the wealth tax one I really want to dig into further here, so I find that one interesting, right? So if you put Warren's 2% wealth tax, I forgot what the number was. I think it was like everything you generate over $50 million as an individual, gets a 2% additional wealth tax. So it didn't work in certain European countries. But could such a thing work in USA? Is kind of the question, right?
I think theoretically it could work.
The thing that I have here is like, so not every European country has it, right? And like I think the difference there is like geographically, you could just like I don't know. I feel like the move from like hypothetically the move from Germany to France is not as catastrophic or as committingful compared to like moving out of USA and going somewhere else, going to another country, right? So the wealth tax that you try to implement in a European country, whether it be like one country or another, is like you can just like move away essentially, right? But you couldn't do that as conveniently in USA. So do you feel that would mean that the wealth tax could?
I mean, like it
here,
could,
or is there other reasons as well?
It could happen. I know that, like, for instance, like somebody's bringing up this article, like Warren has like tried to design her wealth tax like in mind with like the European failures of trying to implement a wealth tax, maybe. But like I don't know, like I wish I should know these numbers, but like what I'm very curious of is if we bring capital gains rates in line with like ordinary income rates, I wonder what kind of revenue that would generate. That would be something that I'd be like very curious to see, or maybe not necessarily in line with ordinary income, but like bump them up quite a bit. Like that I would be curious to see how much revenue is generated from that, because those are again very easy to levy taxes, very easy to collect, easy to enforce. Yeah.
And you brought the trillions thing. I had another thing about that too. You're not wrong there. A trillion is an absolute fuckload. That is a fuck, dude. 1,000 billion, 100,000 million.
Yeah. Like in 2017, I think we spent $3.5 trillion on healthcare, our total healthcare spending in 1 year in 2017. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll see. Okay. Let's bring it back then, because like I kind of lost track of where I was going with this too at this point now. I thought I had another thing about this, but
another great way to help with some of this taxation shit too, really unpopular, things like the TPP, multilateral trade agreements that punish the fuck out of countries for being preferential tax havens. Fuck Switzerland. Fuck Ireland, okay? That type of shit where you go to countries and you do your little, your double Dutch shit, your little corporate inversion bullshit. That shit, there should be immense international pressure on you to fuck off with that shit. You should absolutely,
Actually,
those things should be punished.
How much do they benefit from that? So I get that, because I get that certain countries do that a lot. How much does, like, for example, how much does Ireland benefit from that kind of thing? If you don't know, it's not a big deal, but like I was kind of wondering, like, I feel like at this point now it's pretty transparent that I think Apple particularly milks Ireland hardcore for this kind of stuff as well, with the tax avoidance and the tax haven stuff. I forget exactly how it works, but like they like the patent will originate from Ireland, and due to that, like a certain percentage of the revenue for whatever the product was that they came up with, like has to go to their end rather than to USA, so they're able to conveniently just make that money disappear over there.
I'm not sure what percentage of like Ireland's like economy is made. Ireland is the country where you go to that has like the really weird corporate taxation laws, right, guys? Is it Ireland or is it Northern Ireland?
Well, even then, right? Like, okay, well, what policy could a U.S. politician enforce to make these corporations deter from doing that, right?
Well,
Because
so
it's the
like,
same
okay,
it's the same
so
principle, right?
if we
Because when they just get pissed off and deter elsewhere,
no,
right?
no, no. So here's what we understand, okay? Capital should flow to the places that it's most profitable. In a capitalist economy, with a capitalist society, we understand that businesses are going to flow to places where they're most profitable. So if there are damaging loopholes that exist that allow like certain countries to take advantage of other countries' laws, we need to enforce via multilateral trade agreements or organizations like the WTO that, hey, your laws need to be brought in line with the tax laws of another country. It's hard to do, but it has to be enforced on like a global, like multilateral level, like with multiple countries that like kind of bully people into doing it. Like that's what has to happen. It's the only
Yeah, because without that, there's no structure. It just becomes.
Well, yeah, because you don't want like capital flight. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see here. If we're continuing on the debates now, a little bit more lighthearted here. We can go over some of my losers. I particularly thought that. Not this is not as important, obviously, but Kamala did terrible in my opinion. Booker did terrible in my opinion. Beto did terrible in my opinion.
I don't know if any of them did terrible. They didn't do anything. Like they didn't have any good lines. Nothing they said was memorable.
Oh wait, what? Oh my god, dude! Kamala trying to triple down on the cancel Trump's Twitter account or get Trump deactivated on Twitter, and trying to essentially begging Warren to join her on that was like.
I thought her attacks. Wait, what was she attacking Warren over? Was it that was she telling her to join it? It had to do with the Twitter stuff, right?
Yeah, it was like that was like her in my opinion, her defining moment. She was trying really hard to say it, and that's why I advocated since the last debate that we shut down Trump's Twitter because of its violations and various things or whatever. Which to me is kind of like okay. Well, if you cancel his Twitter, wouldn't he just like resume doing the White House press secretary stuff anyway, and just lie there rampantly regardless, or just do crazy shit there?
That's kind of weird. I don't know how they play. I don't know how that plays with like the general audience, but yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. Yeah.
And she also said something about like she said some really weird shit too. She wanted to like put the owner of Twitter in jail or like punish the owner of Twitter for like for not holding enforcement on world leaders being accountable or some shit like that. I don't know. It was really really weird. But she said that, and then like Warren just kind of like laughed, like just kind of showed like it was essentially a joke. So I thought that was like I thought Kamala's thing there was like really cringe. Beto didn't even have like so since last debate, Beto had said, from the that recent shooting in Texas, that he wanted to like force confiscation of assault weaponry, and so mandated repossession or mandated buybacks, right? If you own an AR-15, I'm going to buy it back from you, whether you like it or not. Not optional, mandated. And so he got pushed on that question. Well, how would you enforce that? And he didn't have like and I get it. It's you push on him for sure here, but it's like he didn't even have a pretty lie. So
yeah,
like,
somebody else. I don't remember who.
Had no substance on how you actually execute that.
It might have been Pete, but somebody else called him out on that afterwards. Like you said, like if they don't like sell it back to you, like the cops are going to show up or something to like confiscate it or whatever. Somebody else pushed back on that. Yeah, I feel like he didn't have a good.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad, given how strong he was on Twitter about it. Like he was like so big. Right. It's like this is fucked
That's what I'm
up.
getting at here.
Yeah, and it's like okay, we'll do like bring the fire.
I forgot you said that actually. Yeah, dude, like his defining trait here to get a desperate like bump in the polls to become newsworthy was to advocate for something radical like a mandated buyback, irrelevant of the consequences of that, or irrelevant of the practicality of it, and irrelevant of some kind of execution of it. And then a month later goes on stage and still has nothing prepped for that. To me, that's comically bonkers, dude. No. Stupid.
Yeah, especially because he got like so much press for that. Like you should be pretty ready to go hard to bat for that. But yeah.
Yeah, but Beto, Omega Lol. So
Pete,
BET, Omega Lol.
Did we talk about Pete? Pete did really well. Pete came out hard this debate.
Ugh, maybe because I don't like Pete. Ugh.
Even if you don't like him, Pete had a lot of talking time and he looked really good on stage. He said a lot of shit tonight. I think he was one of the big. Did that 538 polling come out? I think he was one of like the big winners.
He was so smug. He came off so smug to me the entire time. I don't know. Smug and disingenuous is how I describe him at this point.
Really?
Really?
Okay. Let's see who else.
But how mean you feel about Medicare? That was kind of different though. So like maybe I had a huge negative amount here because of like Medicare for all who can afford it, and I'm just like, okay, dude, all right, bro. I mean, because like this is where we disagree here, though, because you think that private insurance, that workers love their private insurance, they love their doctor, not the networks mandated by the private insurance, and the disillusion that it's actually a choice when it's really not. You're just stuck under where you have to go, where you want to go. So,
Okay.
I don't know. That was like I don't know, to me, just like rampant lying nonstop here. Also, I mean, also the fact that he got what was it, like $19 million in his fundraising this before this previous campaign, and his average donor was really high. And I think like about half his money comes from some oil princes, quote unquote.
Oil princes,
So-
or you mean like Americans, right?
I mean, America. Yeah, I'm sorry, not literally oil princes. I was using that term from like Twitch chat.
Sure.
Yeah.
Although it's
Wealthier
it's possible, like of all the lower candidates, Pete, in my opinion, is the only one that could seriously break out. Kamala Harris is never breaking out. Booker's had his time. It's not going to happen. Yang is a funny meme. Beto O'Rourke, Omega Lol, like Amy Klobuchar, I don't know why. He's just so unlikable. I feel like Pete is the only person that realistically could ever break from that lower tier of candidates into the main. And I mean, like, it kind of makes sense. Like, if you're that lower tier, like, you probably have to rely on wealthy donors to keep your campaign afloat. And it's possible that if Pete were to make it into the upper echelon of candidates, like Warren, he could expand his base so that he could start getting more smaller donations. But I mean, yeah.
Well, I got some bad news for you, actually. So apparently for November, I know the one thing I think we all want at this point is for the field to narrow and people to finally start dropping for real. Not increase. By the way, we didn't even bring up the fact that what's his face, Tom, whatever. Like it went from 10 last month to 12 this month. It actually went up in candidates being on stage. But yeah, fucking Tom, what's his face, the billionaire that we're supposed to trust or whatever. The billionaire saying that like, you know, I'm reforming the change now. Tom Steyer. Yeah, he was on there. Completely afterthought in my opinion though. But yeah, for November's debates, 7 people have already pre-qualified on which criteria was it? I forget if it was polling or if it was it's gotta be polling at this point, but yeah, 7 people were already confirmed. Now, mind you, that's what someone told me in chat last night. I have to actually double check that again here, but it's looking doubtful. I was hoping that it would be at most 7. That like hopefully like, you know, some of these like sub 2%ers, 2% or less would drop out by now, or would drop out next debate for sure. And by that I mean like, what make the criteria stronger here? Like what's the criteria for this next debate to qualify? What,
or like you don't have to make the criteria stronger, just do 2 debates again. You did 2 last time, do 2 this time. I wouldn't mind that. If you've got 10 candidates, fine, do 2 different debates, 5 each. Like,
you know, honestly, yeah, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. Though probably because it's more expensive, right? Because it's like a private event done by like a whatever news organization bids the highest amount to get it to happen here. Probably not as profitable to do the 2-night thing versus a 1-night 3-hour thing.
Maybe
because that 2-night thing was that was done I think only in July, and it was like it was 2 hours across 2 nights. So I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming that viewer retention like drops dramatically, and that on the night 2. Which is more quote unquote more of the same from an entertainment POV, people just don't tune in as much. You probably maybe only get like half the viewership or something like that. That would be my assumption, but I don't want to speculate too much more about that more. But yeah, it's looking unfortunate. We're not going to have much of a reduction next debate, which super sucks.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so but yeah, I'm pretty excited though. I mean, there was some pretty cool plot twists though. We got some big endorsements for Bernie that happened after that. Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and AOC is going to be at his Saturday New York City rally. So that's pretty exciting. So that's gonna so it's looking more like, you know, obviously, you know, Bernie's doing pretty bad on the pretty bad in polling, especially for old people, 65 and older. So just, you know, maybe the inverse here, where you just double down on the millennials and get all them to vote hardcore. With the AOC endorsement, especially the ones that so I feel there's a pretty big camp that, you know, loves Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but then just, you know, on an identity politics front hates that it's another old white guy as I guess a front runner potentially or whatever. Relevant to polling data here, you know, a lot of the AOC supporters would go to Elizabeth Warren, but once AOC endorses Bernie, maybe they'll take a second look and see.
I really don't like these endorsements. I think that like you should have Bernie's platform has been pretty known for a long time. If the Justice Dems were going to start endorsing him, why wouldn't they have done it earlier? It seems so weird that they waited this long to do it. Like these endorsements a long time ago might have helped Bernie quite a bit, but at this point it seems like if you're polling for Bernie, like this seems like pretty late into the game. I know that we haven't even got to the first caucus yet. I mean, I guess this stuff could change, but fuck, why? I don't know why they didn't endorse him earlier. Like,
I I agree with you. I too don't know. Maybe there was like a reason beyond my understanding or beyond my control. I agree with you. I'm wondering too why now? Even if you sure if you want to wait until now, I get that. But why now is I guess kind of my question
I
here.
don't know. It's again, to be fair, we're still like 4 or 5 months away, I think, from the first caucus. So it's still pretty early. I guess,
That's the first caucus is
in February.
February, right? Yeah, because the final primary debate is January. Which I hope the fuck. All right, sure. November can be another shit show, but man, there's only gonna be 2 left after that, dude. I really need to see the field narrow down December and January. But I also worry that it's in the MSMs. Hey, I don't want to get conspiratorial here, obviously. Maybe I do. Fuck it. Yeah, I guess I kind of do. But like I would imagine if I was the MSMs that I would want to keep the field saturated because you get more scrapping, you get more clickbait, you get more one-liners. The more in-house fighting you have, the better I would assume the ratings are for you, the private company that's putting on the event. So it's probably in their agenda to just like keep the field saturated, and ultimately not have or ultimately have more chances for like the minimal progressive candidate to actually get a winning shot at getting.
I think you have to be like really careful when we're engaging in like a really high level of conspiratorial like commentary here, and we have to like keep in mind, or we have to like think of like what the alternatives are. Like let's say the conspiracies of the mainstream media is like has this huge like field because they're trying to fuck over like progressive candidates or whatever other thing. Like if the mainstream media would have limited this to like 4 or 5, you realize like every single person that's a fan of these smaller candidates, they would now have the conspiracy that you're talking about, right? Where it's like, oh well, like this is the open primaries, we're 4 months before like our first caucus, why are you not giving airtime to like Yang or Tulsi Gabbard or Booker or Pete? Like how are you not giving time for these people to speak? Like these people would all be saying that like, well, now the DNC is engaged in a conspiracy to keep our smaller voices from being heard. They just want mainstream popular candidates like Bernie or Biden or Warren. Like they just want the big ones on stage so that they can make money. Like that's bullshit. Like we should have our voices heard too, right? Like I mean, like that conspiracy could easily swing both ways, right?
I guess to an extent, but I mean, there's like a lot of.
You don't think that would happen? Imagine the Yang fans online if Yang wasn't disinvited to all of these debates, or imagine like the fans of like Booker or Beto O'Rourke or Pete Buttigieg. You think they'd be like, yeah, I think it's cool that we literally just have the 2 progressive candidates and Biden on stage. Like if that were to happen, people would be accusing CNN of so much bias, right?
They would be, yeah. But is that really the same thing as what I'm saying right here, though? Like,
well, what are you proposing? That like.
I'm just bringing up they're going to keep their criteria for qualifying for the next debate very relaxed to keep the field saturated. That way there's more in-house fighting. That way to never get to a long form discussion about specific policy nuance like you would get if it was down to like a 5 candidate, debate by January. And then you give, I don't know, people like Bernie who have like nothing but policy substance a long ass time to shine. Irrelevant of how you feel about how the ratings would go for that and how the average American audience would take it. The most politically engaged would have like, you'd finally get a transparent megaphone to like what the policies are. And that might lead to like a stampeding effect for the progressive candidate who has the best policies outlooked and outlined for the average American citizen to make a huge momentum leap prior to February.
I mean, like, I think that like the best argument we can make is there should be 2 debates. I think to have like 2 separate stages. I like that idea. But I don't know, the idea that like the criteria is relaxed. I mean, all of these candidates are spending millions and millions of dollars. All of them are polling like above 3 or 4% across like multiple polls. Like it might seem like irrelevant, especially since we're polling for like the big guys, like either Warren or Bernie or whatever. So like to them, they seem like shitters. But I mean, that's still like a sizable portion of the electorate that would probably want to have like their opinions or their voices heard. I mean, especially when you take people like Harris that was polling at 7 points, and managed to climb to 15 after one of the debates, like to deprive any other candidate of the opportunity to have that like standout or shining moment. I don't know. I feel like you would run into like just as many, if not more, conspiratorial theories if you were only platforming like the 3 big people right now, the 3 front runners, and then you said kind of like fuck off to all the lower tier candidates.
I guess because I was just like, okay, that's fair. I won't I won't divulge any further into it. Divulge, I'm trying to make up words right now. Into it. Just that, I mean, there's plenty of incentive for mainstream media corporations to continue to like have status quo at best. So it's definitely in their interest to like not have like a true progressive or like an anti-corporate progressive like come in here and like actually make some big momentum.
I mean, if that's true, why did Bernie get so much speaking time, like in the first couple debates? Why is Warren getting so much speaking time now? Like, these are pretty like anti-corporate in terms of like compared to some of the other candidates on stage.
I don't know if I would agree that Bernie ever got a ton of speaking time, and if he did, it was usually for disingenuous questions.
Wait, hold on. Does anybody have a record for the how much time people spoke for the first Democratic and second Democratic debate? Oh fuck! I have to find this. I thought Bernie had a lot of speaking time in the first debate. Does anybody remember? Fuck, I don't remember.
Yeah, in my opinion, no. I mean, I feel like one of the most elaborative ones I feel like was whenever one thing I do remember here for the middle hour, and I'm only here to kind of back up my point, not really to like add in. This is part of a conspiracy. Just that for the middle hour of last night, Bernie was not called on, if I recall, for the majority. I didn't time it, but I'm pretty confident for the middle hour he wasn't spoken on at all. And his next question he was finally asked into the third hour of the debate was about his age, which, I mean, I get it. I mean, there's fair context there. He had a heart attack and all that, but
I mean, he had a heart attack. That's a pretty big one. That's a pretty fair. I think that's a pretty fair like critique, like question. Sure.
I guess if it would be a I don't want to word that one here. I guess if I don't want to frame that one.
Like if they didn't ask about the heart attack, that would be super suspicious. Like that was like a pretty big like news item that happened to Bernie. Like not everybody gets like a heart attack on the campaign trail. Not to mention the fact that Bernie actually like went out of his way to say that they were cutting down on the number of events and they were doing in response to that. Oh yeah, okay. So like which candidates?
Let's pause there. Wait. Yeah. Let's pause there because that also gets taken into a different context. I'll admit I was trying to think of how to word it better here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you that. Yeah, the heart attack is relevant. He's in better health now though due to how the operation went and everything like that. Bernie actually is reducing the campaigns and the amount of rallies he's doing now, but that's being framed in a way that, in my opinion, is not entirely accurate. He was doing upwards of over like 4 events a day, like
and now he's cutting down on it because he almost fucking died. Like that's the framing. That's what happened.
Down to what an average candidate does, but it seems to be the implications that he's like ailing in health, certainly.
Well, he is ailing in health, right?
But now he's going to do like at the capacity of a regular person would do. Not
sure,
like
but he wasn't Superman before. He was pushing himself too hard before. He had a heart attack.
People don't take it as though. They take it as like a different thing. Like, oh, well, now he's a crippling old man who's going to fall apart.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like he was doing an event, or he was doing like a lot of like public stuff. He was doing more than other candidates, supposedly. The Sanders campaign has said that. I'll believe that. And then he had a heart attack, and probably on advice of his doctors, he cut down on the amount of campaigning he was doing. Like maybe he's cutting it down to like what most people are normally doing. I'm not sure, but like he had a heart attack and he cut down on his campaigning. Like that's gonna play with a lot of people. The guy is almost 80 years old. And a heart attack is like a pretty big meme. Like most people are pretty scared of like when people have heart attacks. That's not to say that he's going to die. Like mentally, Bernie seems to me to be about as sharp or sharper than anyone else on that stage. Definitely more than fucking Biden. But like, yeah, like this is something like that people are probably going to take into account. Like you can't brag because it's super ironic, especially to hear this coming from like the Bernie camp, because one of the toxic attitudes that Americans have about work culture is bragging about how much we work, how much overtime we've done, how little break we've gone on, how little time we have to relax, because Americans work more hours, I think, than any other industrialized country in the world. And then Bernie literally did it. He worked so much that he had a fucking heart attack. Like that's not a good look. I mean, like, again, like I don't think that he's necessarily like Biden has had multiple aneurysms and shit, like, which are all big problems as well. And if that happened on a campaign trail, it'd be bad too. But yeah, I think that's totally a valid thing to bring up, especially since Bernie's camp was trying to downplay it initially. They said it was just, initially they didn't even want to call it a surgery. They were like, oh, he didn't even have an operation or a surgery. It was just like, they made it sound like a routine, like he went in and got his like blood pressure measured or whatever. And then later on it came out that it was like, oh, okay, like he actually had a heart attack. Yeah, initially they said it wasn't even a surgery.
I heard it was quiet for about 3 days.
Yep.
Until
But
it
I
was
remember like
stable.
Bernie bros on Twitter were going crazy about that. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What he did, it wasn't even a surgery, guys. Okay. It was so minor. But it was like, okay, well, it was
Okay,
actually.
well, let's bring it back a little bit. Okay, so
Sure. Oh, wait, real
I-
quick. I just wanted to bring up too. I'll link in chat. So like the
what?
talking time.
What? I didn't just even like clarify my own self here.
Oh, hey,
What?
wait. Clarify. I'm just pointing out that talking time point we brought up a long time ago. Warren and Sanders by far had, I think, had the most talking time on the second night of their debate. But okay, I just want to bring that up. Okay, go for it.
Warren and Sanders had the most talking time on which debate? I'm sorry.
I think this was the first debate on the second night.
Okay, so the July debate on night 2.
Yep, July 30th. Okay, go for it.
Okay. Hang on, wait a second. Where was I?
We were
What
talking
was I
about
gonna say?
Bernie's heart attack and whether or not that was a big deal. We were talking about talking time, conspiracies.
Oh, yeah. So concerning the conspiracy thing, it was only a minor thing. It wasn't really meant to be the hill I wanted to die on if I'm trying to or anything like that. Just the general notion here that right now the U.S. audience's trust in MSMs is currently at an all-time low from what I saw in one feedback poll a while back. I think that's fair to say here. There's like if you look at like a lot of the, I mean, can we at least agree on that one here? Can we
No.
at least agree that there's...
I can agree that the perception of the mainstream media is at an all-time low, but I disagree with how this framing is done. I actually super hardcore hate it when people do this. It's like my big trigger.
No, okay. So when Fox News does like a crap ton of propaganda and it's consumed at face level value without any kind of critical thinking or any kind of second guess or call on it, that's...
I think it's bad, but like this is like Russian propaganda 101, okay? And that I don't even mean like for our media, Russia attacking blah, blah, blah. I just mean like this is something like Russia has understood for a long time. The way to make it so that your propaganda can be believed isn't to make it so that your news is believable or that your news is more believable than anybody else's or whatever. The way to do it is to attack institutions and make it seem like none of it is credible. Because when nothing is credible, everything is credible. People on the extreme right do this all the time. CNN are liar. Washington Post is liars. Uranium one really happened. Pizzagate is real. All the big politicians are against us. But I've noticed increasingly, people on the left do it as well. There are definitely times when the mainstream media fucks up. The Donna Brazil shit was a huge fuck up. It should never fucking happen. And then some of the reporting sometimes is definitely questionable. But this idea that all of the mainstream media has this huge rigged conspiracy against certain candidates gives you in my opinion, a very bad understanding of what's happening on the political level, both on national and local scales. And then it also like puts your mind in a really weird spot where you interpret things like, is asking Bernie if he had a heart attack, is that a rigged question, right? Like it puts you in like a really weird spot where I think you're missing like the bigger picture, not you particularly, sorry, but where people can miss the bigger picture.
Yeah, because I will agree. I shouldn't have used Bernie as a heart attack. I more meant that like he didn't speak for an hour.
It's not just that. Like lefties do this, for instance, when it comes to the entire field of economics. All of it is biased. All of it is rigged. None of it is real. Like people are very quick to cast aside. Like people say they value like institutions of like media or education or intellectualism or whatever, but they'll cast it aside immediately if it disagrees with their particular narrative, which I think is like worrisome. Okay, go for it. Sorry.
Okay, so WAPO. Okay, Washington Post has definitely done some smears against Bernie.
What do you mean by smears?
I'd have to go back and look at them a little bit further here, but I will bring up contextually because Jeff Bezos, owner of Amazon, also owns Washington Post. Definitely has an agenda to, or definitely feasible within his agenda to utilize the WAPO to weaponize against, and it's going to hurt his bottom line or hurt his ability to use like Amazon to continue to do their corporate flex and everything like that. So whenever the Stop Bezos Act happened with Bernie, there was definitely at least one smear done by the WAPO that was very disingenuous. I can't recall it offhand right now here.
Was this actually by like, was it actually like a Washington Post story, or was this just like an op-ed that somebody wrote for WAPO, like an op-ed on the New York Times or an op-ed like?
I mean, does the general public generally differentiate the two? I understand that you could, but if it's a WAPO piece, I don't think the average person is going to differentiate between like an op-ed and an actual like story.
Okay. I would have to like go back and look, but like,
well, do you know what I mean by the Stop Bezos Act? You know, talking about the thing where where Bernie like pretty much shamed, where Bernie shamed corporations like Amazon and Walmart to where they're using welfare benefits to like subsidize their workers to use that rather than pay them living wages, essentially.
Sure.
So before this like got into an official act, it was acronym.
Yeah, no, I've heard this.
Stop
It's
Bezos.
supposedly that was in line with pressuring them to do 15-hour minimum wage or whatever for their employees. But like, Oh man, I don't know. We should dedicate an episode into looking at this because we're
yeah,
we're at alt-right Jewish question levels of conspiracy about mainstream media, and like a lot of people on the left are doing this. Where literally like the entire media game is stacked against Bernie Sanders as like the lone wolf out there, and everybody rather than like because the alternative is that Bernie's just not as popular as people think he is. Like that's and that is like unimaginable to a lot of people. It's unbelievable that like Bernie Sanders maybe he isn't like the socialist savior or America's not ready for the socialist revolution. Like that thought is inconceivable to a lot of people. So instead we concoct these grand narratives about unfavorable coverage and shit about all these candidates. And it's interesting because on one hand, you know, people on the left will say like, oh, well, the media fucked up with all this coverage of Trump. Like even when they were making fun of him, they were actually helping him. But then if the media makes fun of Sanders, well, now it's a legitimate smear attack that's hurting his campaign. Like there's no criteria that we consistently apply anywhere. We just have a particular media narrative, and anything that goes outside of that is either fake news, unreal, biased reporting, blah, 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 because we only exist like in this little world that we want to see. I think it's really scary when people do that, in my opinion. Sorry, I threw a lot at you there. My bad.
At minimum, I'd say there's some level of false equivalence going on there. Whenever it's like a Bernie bias or a Bernie smear versus other candidates.
I mean, there was a lot of like shitting on Trump in the last election cycle, right? For president, there were a lot of people that were making fun of him or showing his gaffes and like doing like pretty unfavorable reporting on how silly or dumb he was. But then in the end, everyone came out and was like, well, actually, that was just free media coverage for Trump. Like you guys played right into his hand. Why is it different with Sanders then? All the negative media coverage should be helping him like it did Trump, right? But so like we have like this high level analysis that we're using where it's like, okay, well, maybe there's conspiracy here. Or we could just go to the low level and go, oh, well, Trump was really fucking popular with the people because he echoed their sentiments at the time. Bernie Sanders just isn't as popular. And now everything makes sense. Oh, he doesn't get as much media coverage because he doesn't poll like as well, maybe some people. Or like he gets questions because those were the hot issues of the day. Or like, oh, you know, like maybe the people favor this or that because it's what the people want to see. Like everything makes so much more sense if you just look at it through that lens rather than like constructing like elaborate conspiracies to like make stuff work, in my opinion, from what I've seen.
Okay. Oh, I can do a little bit more homework. We can come back to it again. One thing I will say though is that so you're equivalating that like the negative press that Trump got. I don't know. Is this like relevant to like what the lefties perceive as like a thing? Or are you asking me about more particularly here? Because I feel like Trump did lie like a lot, and usually these were like negative things that were usually associated with like something that he lied about or like manipulated in his favor in some sort.
I remember hearing all sorts of.
I don't know if you're talking about like on his like campaign versus like.
Almost everything. I remember news stories about him being at like Clinton's weddings, news stories about him being part of the truther movement, news stories about him saying his daughter looked hot, and maybe he'd fuck her. I don't even remember on the Howard Stern show. There was like a lot of like negative press that came out before about Trump. And all the people on the left were like, oh, well, that actually helped him. Like the mainstream media was playing right into his hands. And it's like, I mean, why isn't it the same with Bernie? If he's getting negative coverage, you should just help him like it helped Trump. If that was the narrative we were going with before, right?
Well, Trump was just getting a lot of coverage, period, because it was good for ratings. Because I guess the news corporations were pursuing profit over like any kind of like objective coverage is kind of what I would say. Like the time that he actually like the MSMs would call out, like say like Trump's fib or lie, they would just say what he said but won't like admit if it was a lie or not, because they were able to continue to profit off of like the news cycle, essentially the news hysteria, if you will.
Sure.
I don't think it's like really that far-fetched to admit or say that, you know, as long as there's like a profit incentive for news, there's not really an agenda to be objectively truthful.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that like people are like generally chasing like what does the audience want to see. But that's a far different answer than like, well, actually, WAPO is hiring bad story writers for Bernie because Bezos owns them and is from the top down, like messaging their editors saying like, hey, also with all the inside reporting that people like New York Times and the Washington Post like report on, you don't think if Bezos was pressuring people into writing negative stories about Bernie, you don't think that shit would be leaked and would be like the biggest, that would be like international news coverage for like a week. That would be so fucking huge. If Bezos was actually engaged in that would be one of the biggest leaks, like maybe of like the last decade. I don't know. There have been a couple like huge Trump leaks. That would be a huge, like the CEO of like a company like that was like pressuring like Washington Post to give unfavorable coverage to Bernie. Oh my God.
It's the richest guy in the world. It wouldn't, I mean, I don't know.
It would be a huge leak and people would be talking about it like crazy. Like, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
it's probably leak-proof protocols and like work-safe language to use to get around that kind of thing.
Wait, hold on. This is a huge level of conspiracy now.
I know. I'm throwing you what could be the plausible scenario.
That's not the American intelligence agency is the most sophisticated agency in the world, and we have leaks in our own American intelligence agencies. There's no way that Washington Post is more secure than like the Pentagon and shit. And we still have like the Edward Snowdens or the Julian Assanges or the Russian penetration shit. Like there's no fucking way that shit stays under wraps if that was actually happening. Like imagine how coordinated that effort would be. Bezos would have to give top-down messaging to like managers and editors. Like editors would have to coordinate stories and tell people what they can or cannot write. Like people would have to be planted to write bad stories. Like there'd be so many like layers involved.
Then it doesn't have to be Bezos. Could be just some high-ranking Amazon executive for all I know. Right? It doesn't have to be Amazon. It doesn't have to be Bezos directly or anyone at all here. This also isn't thing I really want to. This isn't like the hill. Also, I
sure.
Really
I understand.
I would rather come back and polish a little bit further here, if I could.
Sure.
Because like right now, I get it. Okay, you're not engaging, and you disagree with the general notion that MSM can be biased towards an ulterior motive to keep their profits in a status quo condition. I get that. So you don't even agree with my base assumption that I thought you had there. So
I think that's possible.
Step 3 here. Well, you can't even agree on step 1, which is fine.
I can agree that
going about step 3 here makes me look like a crazy person.
Sure.
I mean, like you don't agree with that. So
I can agree that there are definite profit incentives. Like companies engage in rent-seeking behavior all the time, right? Where they divert funds just to like try to save costs via like government action and shit, right? Or enacting certain policies. I can agree with that. I'm just saying that like the likelihood of that stuff actually happening, when it happens. I mean that fucking. I mean like I keep mixing up names. Donna Brazil was the one who had the questions leaked or whatever for the DNC shit, right? Was that Donna Brazil, or am I thinking of another person's name? I think I mixed her name up with somebody else.
The DNC questions? Which ones?
For the debate questions that got leaked ahead of time. Was it?
Wait. For Hillary's
Yeah, she leaked it to Clinton ahead of time. Right? Yeah, like that got leaked. And now this is like that's the easiest thing in the world to keep a secret. That's like a 2 or 3 man job. Somebody tells or maybe even she finds out the question early and she one-on-one contacts somebody from like the Clinton campaign. Even that got leaked, right? So like if that kind of stuff is getting leaked, there is no way a grand conspiracy among the media companies. If you believe in this, you're one step away from the Jewish question. Like you're right there. You're right on the door. And the reason why like I get so scared about this, and like I'm not gonna say like only lefties do it. Right-leaning people do it too. No, I'm sorry. Absolutely, right-leaning people do it. They do it with fucking climate change. Sorry. This was in the emails. Sure, but even in the emails, like
huge leap to me though. That's where I disagree though. Like
no, what you're talking about is literal Jewish question stuff. Like that's where you're at. Like the Jewish question is the idea that Jewish people are running the media and their goal is to spread messages that are pro-immigration in order to bring over dark-colored people and Hispanic people to breed out the white race. That's the Jewish question, essentially. Is it like Jews are running everything from the top down in society? If you replace Jews with wealthy people, well, you have the exact same thing. There are certain media people that are in place at the heads of companies that have rigged the entire system against Bernie Sanders. No fucking way. There's no way there are so many moving parts to make that happen. Like, that's not gonna happen. Now, do certain people in media have biases? Absolutely. Have there been really shitty fucking op-eds that have framed like certain people in different ways, and even actual reporting that have? Yeah, I'm sure there have been. But like, it makes so much more sense to see these as like kind of like discrete events that happen that's explainable as part of a larger narrative, rather than we have to construct this grand conspiracy that there's this huge machine behind the scenes working against an incredibly popular candidate. Like that doesn't make sense. Like if this was so true, then Sanders would have never been as popular as he was during the last election cycle. Like when Sanders came out of nowhere.
Well, that could have been because of the rise of independent media finally, and like independent media and coverage of the campaigns, as opposed to just solo MSM coverage. Like I feel like
Bernie got a lot of mainstream media coverage. Bernie got a lot of mainstream media coverage. I don't know if, and even if we want to take a step further back, we can go back to the Rush Limbaughs of the world about how scary the Clinton political machine is. Like, this is a person who hires people to murder Seth Rich. Well, then why the fuck did Obama win that election? Obama was a literal WH Omega lol. Obama and came out of nowhere and fucking trounced Clinton. Like, why would they let that happen 2 times in a row? This is like the number one conspiracy theory question you always ask. Why is it that if these political machines are so strong, then why are there all these other like upsets happening? Why did Hillary lose the first election? Why did she lose the second one? Trump will claim the same, like, oh well, Democrats rig everything. Millions of illegal immigrants voted. Really? Then why did Trump win the election? Like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, they were able to rig it that close? They couldn't just do like another 100,000 votes to swing the districts they needed? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. I see this happen a lot, and it's happened historically a lot too. And I hate that all of my research right now is like left-leaning, like or like societies. Like this happened in the USSR and China too. The first thing you do when you take over is all the old scientists, throw them the fuck out, execute them, kill them, put in your own people, even if it's fake or bogus science. And the USSR did this, where they brought in people that literally were like denied genetics even existed, right? Because they didn't believe any of the old establishment. And I hear the same thing sometimes where people are like, I can't trust any of the media, I can't trust any of the academics. Like everybody's against me. Like I just think it's a really scary world when you get into that. Like you're purely like propaganda driven at that point for your side. And I don't know. I'm ranting a lot, but that's very scary to me. Sorry, go ahead.
So I don't even think. Yeah. That. Wow. Okay, that was a lot. I don't even think it's that complicated. Sure. Are there? I don't even want to be labeled as conspiracies here. I thought it'd be a cool thing to talk about, but let's take a second. Okay.
Yeah.
If there are other people who are full on like hard on conspiracies about looking for like any kind of questionable things that are happening in the political field, these people, sure, could they be, as you say, the borderline Jew conspiracy? Certainly. To me, it doesn't have to even be that complicated. It's just simply that these consolidated, massive conglomerate corporate medias, your Time Warners, your Benevistas, et cetera, and all of them, they have an agenda to keep things as pro-corporate as possible here. Bernie is very deliberately anti-corporate, so obviously it'd be in their agenda to protect their bottom line, to not have the rules change that are going to make it harder for them to generate more profit by using their weight to have, whether it be like questionable mergers when you're already too popular and too big to fail, or anything like that. So it's obviously like, I would imagine that Facebook and Amazon, for example, would definitely vehemently oppose Warren and Bernie coming anywhere near being the Dem primary candidate, because if it does happen, it's going to threaten their bottom line. Facebook will get deconsolidated on Warren's efforts at minimum. Bernie would threaten to tax shit out of them because they're currently paying.
Okay. So here's a question. Let's just kind of like think about this.
It's purely an economic thing. I'm not even looking at it as like who runs what or whatever you think you're.
If this was true,
purely a simple money thing.
Why wouldn't all these companies just like slant Republican then? If they're the guys that are all talking about lower taxes and saving money on taxes, why wouldn't these people all like just like kind of have like a more Republican bend?
Wait, what do you mean these people?
Like these like large media conglomerates, why wouldn't they be like so much more favorable to conservatives and Republicans, since they're the guys that are all pushing for like lower corporate taxes or lower personal taxes anyway?
I don't know. Republicans are crazy, and it's like they're so. I don't know. At this point now, you're gonna call me even crazier if I like try to like justify that. I don't know, because Republicans are crazy and they're so far removed from reality that it's like a mega law to take seriously.
I mean, they ran all three branches of government for 2 years. I mean, they're clearly not that unpopular or that crazy, right? They were in the House, Senate, the White House, and now the Supreme Court. So I mean,
I don't know, because why don't they support? Like, I don't understand what that means here. Like,
I guess like the question is like, if there was a grander conspiracy, there are a couple things that don't make sense to me. One, why didn't Clinton win against Obama? Two, why was Bernie Sanders getting so much coverage and got so popular in the 2016 cycle? Like, it seems like the powerful conspiracy could have stopped Bernie Sanders from ever getting that popular. That seems like really strange to me. And then three, like today, well, why is Elizabeth Warren getting so much coverage? Why has she had so much talking time? Or even Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren had a ton of talking time and all of their prior debates. Like, why is that happening? Shouldn't they just be stopping, attempting to talk to them? Like, I don't know. Just if there is like a grander conspiracy at work, it doesn't seem to explain all the actions. It seems more like I can invent a grand conspiracy to explain away a couple things I don't like, but then it doesn't really apply to anything else.
So why didn't they just ghost entirely here? Probably because, okay, if I had to give you like one thing there, grassroots support had a huge momentum for how one could survive and persist despite a media bias. I think that comes to mind there, whether it be for Bernie or Warren, whoever else it may be. Anyway, sorry, you threw out some. Can you go out the other ones here again for me? You threw out some other ones real quick here.
Why did Bernie get so much coverage over the second election cycle? Why are Elizabeth Warren and Bernie getting so much coverage now?
Like, as opposed to like, I mean, certainly, I don't know, dude. Like, well, before we even get to that one here, you asked why did Clinton win over Obama? And you're referring to the 2008 election? Is that what you're talking about at that point? You said that one like in your earlier one. I was fun to.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I guess this is more like people that talked about how powerful the Clinton machine was. This isn't directly to you because I hope you don't believe in like the Seth Rich like conspiracy shit or whatever. But like,
No. My thing is, dude. My thing is so like, I don't want to say you're overreading what I'm saying here because you're like mass conspiracy. Ultimately, rich people want to stay rich. And they want the rules to remain the same where they can continue to be rich. Whether that means, paying Walmart employees dirt shit and then telling them they make so little that they can utilize and abuse welfare programs to make the middle ends meet rather than give them a decent wage while the Walton family continues to be incredibly rich. Certainly. That's my thing is really, really simple. That's why I thought you already were on board with like phase one, that obviously the rich want to stay rich and powerful. So they want to keep the rules rigged against the poor and keep the rules.
And like there are some like, but we have to.
And when there's any threat to them on their bottom line in a long-term systematic change here, they're gonna vehemently oppose that any way they can, utilizing every tool they can possible.
Yeah, there's two very important things going on. Like with medicine, okay, when we give somebody a drug, there's like an overall effect we're trying to achieve, but there's also like underlying like biomechanical things that like underpin what's actually happening. And I think it's kind of important to understand both, right? I think doctors is everything. Like we try to understand like the underlying like underpinnings to all the things that are happening. And I think it's really important to ask the same types of questions about like media narratives. So like when you give me like this grand narrative that says like rich people want to stay rich, well, yeah, of course, I believe that. Now, if you're going to tell me, well, how do they do it? Let's say that you say, well, lobbyists pressure politicians to pen certain legislation. Really? Well, let's look at the underlying evidence of that. Oh, well, some senators actually push legislation that appears to be written by certain corporations. That's believable to me, 100%. I can actually see that happening. There's evidence of that happening directly. But when you say there's like a grand media conspiracy against a candidate, well, okay. Now, if I'm trying to think of like, how does a senator get influenced? A lobbyist who has a lot of money, or an individual can buy time, talk to a senator, say like, hey, I'll support you monetarily if you do this or that. Like, I think that I like your campaign. Like, this would be good, blah, blah, blah. That makes sense to me. Sure. I can see that happening. But a top-down like media conglomerate that employs thousands or hundreds of thousands, probably in hundreds of thousands. How many employees work at CNN? At least thousands of people, right? Okay, so CNN has 3,000 employees, right? In an industry that's dedicated to leaking shit, okay? Like, that's what journalists do, especially if we've learned anything over the past 2 to 3 years, it's that we do have, like, a degree of, like, journalism in the United States. There is a lot of shit that gets leaked, and we find out a lot of undercover shit. The idea that top-down conspiracies exist in these companies, when you are so incentivized to leak shit about the opposition, man, that's a really big sell. You're almost having to invent new technologies here to make this conspiracy work, that people are talking in, like, a coded language or using carrier pigeons to communicate stuff that's not leaked or revealed to any other person. Like, I don't know. That's, in my opinion, that's just such a hard sell to me. And everything else can be so easily explained by the idea that, like, oh, well, the major media conglomerates are just generally showing people what they kind of already want to see already. So, like, certain candidates are really popular. That's why they get more airtime, or they think they can make more money off of other candidates, so they get more airtime. Like, that seems to explain almost every behavior. And, yeah, in my opinion.
I just can't but feel I'm being a slightly reframed when you say like the grand narrative and it's a huge conspiracy. To me, it doesn't seem that extreme, honestly. Yeah, it could be that kind of operation. Whenever you're this much of a threat to the everyday operation of news corporations, yeah, I would imagine that you want to protect your bottom line. You're going to want to like do whatever you can to silence those in opposition. I don't know. It doesn't seem that crazy to me.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, we can agree to disagree. It's good to have healthy disagreement.
Yeah, I just don't think it's that extreme. You keep painting it like I'm some mad scientist with a tinfoil hat on, and I'm like borderline the next guest on Alex Jones. But I'm just like, yeah, if the corporations want to continue to have their, I would imagine that if anyone's going to be a threat to undoing the George Bush tax cuts or the Trump tax cuts that come to the bottom line, giving these corporations their record high profits, they're going to be in cooperation to do whatever they can to protect that.
I guess I would just be super curious.
There's a couple of trinkets here and there that seem to me imply a little bit disingenuous stuff.
I mean, I'm
not on the inside, so I can't say. I just thought it was noteworthy on the podcast, but I do feel I'm getting kind of reframed as like literally Looney Tune insane for bringing up something very, very basic, that corporations will lie, cheat, and bend the rules to get what they want done.
Yeah, I guess like
or silence their critics here. I think that's not an exceptional thing. It's a very common systematic thing here. Corporations are fucked up.
A little bit, I guess. Like, I just get scared because people can play like a lot of games with numbers and like one-off stories to try to like paint a picture that ends up just not being reflective of reality.
Yeah, okay, look, I agree. Yeah. I regret bringing up the Bernie thing. I get that I did a really shitty job.
A lot of people
the Bernie health question. You're not wrong. It's a heart attack, certainly. I get that one. You're right. Maybe my Bernie bias show up a little bit on that one right there. I agree. I take the L on that. Calling it a grand narrative conspiracy theorist when it's like corporations are gonna do corporate interest things all the time. To me, it doesn't seem that there's like systematic patternized behavior that's happening time and time again here. You literally admitted to the lobbyist thing. I think this is that exceptional. Certainly, the specifics of how it can pull off, particularly at CNN, is like one thing up for debate. I just thought it'd be like but obviously, I hope you're not equating me here to like you're given like super woke lefty on Twitter. Was like telling you like all the things here. Like I'm not.
Well, I'm thinking more of like, especially like the Mike from CCP or whatever guy and like Hassan or whatever, that some of the media narratives that even these guys push is generally that like the whole media is rigged and conspiring against Bernie. And then like, especially like Mike has like all of these stats and numbers that he kind of like twists and bends to prove like his point, even though none of it ends up like panning out in reality. So like the first conversation I had with Mike, for instance, he had like this whole website proving why like Bernie was going to be the most popular candidate or whatever. And a few months later, here we are, Bernie is like lower than ever in the polls. And it's like, okay, and I just get really worried that like when people start attacking these like education or like media institutions, I should say, that like we're constructing new realities or we're constructing narratives to explain like realities that don't exist so that we can avoid the reality that we live in now. And that's just really, really scary to me. So I guess I don't know like how far bought in necessarily that you are, but that idea that like the whole media's bias or stacked is like really scary to me.
I know we're over time right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I don't know if we can stop. We can do again. We haven't even got. I had like another like 7 stories, by the way. I had like light topics actually prepared today.
That's all right. Hey, just keep going. Fuck it.
Well, okay. So for example, right. Okay. So if you say that if you were to say that, you know, a media conglomerate has too many people and would have too many eyeballs on the dirty trail to run like a clean execution of some kind of conspiracy against one candidate without it ever leaking, then I guess I have to ask you then, well, how do you feel about the DNC primarying Hillary over Bernie in 2016? Do you feel that there was no foul play there whatsoever? Was Hillary actually for example here, like literally the New York primary election where there were certain election stations closed in certain poor income districts, while the ones in the upper richer districts were open all day. Some were open only as little as 6 hours a day. The other ones are open for 12 hours that day.
Are you saying that the DNC like conspired at the polling stations to hurt?
Yeah, literally, yes. That for the New York primary and the 2016 primary election for the state of New York, that the districts that had lower income people, the populous lower income people that were going to probably vote for Bernie over Hillary, those stations were open a lot less or had malfunctioning polling equipment, whereas in the districts that had the higher income individuals were open conveniently all day. And this is something you couldn't fix overnight because it was tethered to wherever your address was registered to. So you couldn't go to another station to go vote. You're just kind of like fucked over. The idea being voter suppression so that the rich people would vote for Hillary because she was in favor of them, and the poor people would get fucked over and had to work that day, and they wouldn't be able to vote for Bernie. So Hillary won the primary in New York through some dirty tactics and all that.
I would have to look this up because I have not heard this at all.
No? Okay. Well, that was the one I would like. I guess how you would. So then you don't agree. You don't agree that the DNC primaried Hillary for disingenuous reasons. They genuinely primaried Hillary because she had higher electability.
Well, I think the DNC probably prefers Hillary. Well, that doesn't surprise me because, one, the DNC is a private thing, but also the DNC supports Democrats, right? And Bernie isn't even really a Democrat. So it's not really that surprising to me that like the DNC would favor somebody like Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders, because it's possible that Bernie Sanders would either not support or try to deconstruct like the entire Democratic Party. Now, that's not to say that that's right or wrong or that supports the voters or turns against the voters. I would imagine that most voters don't see the Democratic Party as like a private entity, but rather like as a reflection of the people. So they would probably feel like pretty burned by that. Like, well, wait, hold on. Why are you guys representing your party interests over like my personal interest? But yeah, I mean, like Bernie Sanders doesn't even run as a Democrat. I don't think like in the Vermont districts that he runs in, like for Senator or whatever. So like that's not surprising to me that like the DNC wouldn't support Bernie that much. But in terms of like, but now we can ask like what are like actual like conspiratorial things that are happening. the worst thing that I know about is that Donna Brazil thing, which was shit. That shouldn't have happened. But I haven't heard anything about like the DNC like actually trying to close down. This is a pretty huge claim. That you're saying that the DNC was intentionally understaffing or defunding or breaking machines or whatever in certain voting areas in New York?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like this was definitely a story here. There's also some icky super delegate stuff too, if I recall correctly. I don't remember about the super delegates specifically here, but
the super delegates basically don't have to support based on how the population votes. I agree that the super delegate system is kind of like shit. You can argue whether or not they're there for a good or bad reason. They're supposed to be there to dissuade like candidates that would be bad for the party, like from making it, arguably. I don't like the super delegate system. I think it's dumb. The Republicans don't use it. I think that should be gone. But again, like there's just something that's like, it's really important to understand what's happening rather than to say like, oh, well, like the whole system is rigged against Bernie, rather than like, oh, well, there's like different incentives in place that could cause different people to have some implicit biases that might cause like unfavorable reporting. Like they sound the same, but they're two totally different things, right? Like, because in one world, you know, like maybe there are some things that we should look at, like are certain types of reporters incentivized to work for the Washington Post that might favor another candidate over Bernie? That's really important to look at. Like that could absolutely be a thing. I could 100% believe that if you tell me like, oh, if you would say like there's a culture that exists at WAPO or the New York Times that incentivizes certain types of reporters that might unfavorably report on like Sanders, yeah, that actually could be a thing. I don't know if that's true or not. That could be a thing. But when you say like Bezos himself hates Sanders and that top-down pressure is causing, well, now we're engaging in like a pretty big conspiracy that requires like a pretty big like burden of evidence to actually like make this claim, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll give you so if you find that one hard to swallow, which I could Google, we can like Google foo if you wanted to, where I just like I Google this thing and I can find it, but I find it a little bit like disingenuous because I would rather like prepare a comprehensive argument rather than just like, you know, Google an article back and forth with you all day long with everything like that.
I did Google the Sanders story. I will say, surprisingly, the stories are on CNN, and I don't know why they would be hosted on CNN if CNN is a grand conspiracy against Bernie, but I do see a story where Sanders' campaign and New York officials cried foul.
It depends on time of publication. It might have already been after Hillary was like was already like on there, was already like confirmed to be the primary, at which point it might be in their agenda just to like sensationalize it further, to like have more back and forth bickering between her and
do you really think so? Well, like, so here's another story from the New York Times.
If you're a media corporation, like what is drama not news? Like what?
Wait. So which is it then? Do the media corporations report on what gives you the most views or drama? Because that's my position. Or are they like rigged against Bernie Sanders? Because now what you just gave me, I agree with that. Are they going to report on shit that gets clicks? Abso-fucking-lutely. But that's a different story than like they're rigged against Bernie Sanders. Because when I'm looking up stories about this the New York shit, I'm getting hits from CNN, from the New York Times. Like these are supposedly.
Why couldn't it be both? I don't. Why is it gotta be one or the other?
Well, because now when it says both, now your original claim is kind of vacuous. Well, what level of conspiracy theory is it versus what level of like just media being media is it? Because now you've got it to where like, is it 95% conspiracy or 5% conspiracy? Now we're living in the gray land where like, because if it's 95% conspiracy, that's a huge deal. If it's like 2% conspiracy, oh well, it's just media being media then, right?
Again, I don't. It's not I wouldn't even frame it as like a conspiracy. It's just corporate habit.
When we talk about like top-down leadership pressuring stories being published, that's conspiracy, right?
Certainly, yeah. Again, Bezos having a personal vendetta against Bernie was not like, again, the hill I'm dying on.
Okay.
It could be an Amazon. It could be Amazon. It could be like, you know, you could be whenever you're vetting for your employees, you could look for them to be a certain way so they naturally align with the whole thing here. To me, that's not even that's not a crazy thing to think about here. Yeah, you want the hive mind to run the beehive essentially. I don't think it's that crazy to say.
That could,
and therefore the corporation is going to behave in a certain way to oppose any external threats that would threaten their operation, how they want to run it.
Yeah, that like what you just said there. Possible that maybe there might be like a hiring bias that might impact.
And that's what I would stick with. I'm not here to die on the hill to prove that Bezos personally hates Bernie.
Sure.
Please don't try to frame it in that way. That's
okay, sure. But to be fair, and I'm not trying to like debate tactic you, that is what you opened with. You initially said that Bezos had something personal against Bernie. That was what you opened with. That's why I'm kind of like holding it there. If you want to like, change this to like maybe there are hiring biases that implicitly impact. Like that could be possible for sure. I could agree with that. Yeah, but
okay. maybe I okay. If I did say that, I didn't actually mean that.
Sure,
I
that's
would have.
fine. That's okay.
I think at most I would have said that Bezos could have something against Bernie, which I think is plausible. I
Okay,
mean,
hold
dude's
on.
got,
You feel like this is like we're kind of like walking back into like, well, Bezos could. Well, what does that mean? Like 5% or 95%? Because now it feels like now we're back in the gray area where like it could be really bad or it could be whatever, right?
was more that I don't because I'm talking with you.
Mhm.
I think I try to be pretty precautious on not making any definitive statements.
Sure.
You've hit me in the past here with that where I've made like a loose statement, then you wanted specificity, and then I'm like, okay, actually you're right. I was just being like facetious, or I didn't like come at it with hardcore citation here.
Okay,
So I
yeah,
try my
that's
best
fine.
to like not come at anything with anything that's like going to be. If I say something definitive, I will try to stand behind it. As if I admitted here earlier that, yeah, the Bernie heart attack question, not really a smear. I would say more the how are we going to pay for it is like a disingenuous framing of a certain question whenever you're asking about particularly Medicare for all. You disagree with that, and that's fine. I can move on from there.
But that's
I
a
admit when I'm
question
at fault.
everybody's asked for about everything. Even Trump got asked that question about like paying
No,
for
I
certain
agree.
programs.
That's why I'm more telling you that I admit when I am at fault, and I didn't give like a definitive quantification of a certain thing.
Sure.
So here, if I say that he could, I mean, yeah, he could.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not. It's not the hill I would want to. I'd want to die on. Just more that when you upgrade it to like grand level conspiracy, and that I'm the crazy one for observing corporate habit of them wanting to maintain their bottom line and their operation under a status quo enabling, and wanting to eliminate their threats essentially.
Sure.
That's all.
Okay. All right. What's our non-debate topics? What do we got next?
Wait. Did we? Fuck, hang on. Wait. There was. What were we talking just before this though? Just before, because you were pinning me down on something here, and then I was gonna like, but then I said that then you brought the Bezos thing again here. It was like.
I think you agreed with me that a pizza is majorly determined by its toppings and not the cheese and crust and sauce, which is.
Oh, actually, no. My hot take there was that I told in my chat. Okay, so I know I'm about to like hardcore derail right now, but when it comes to pizza, right? So obviously we can all argue that the local chains are the best, but I tell everyone like, look, okay, that's a boring debate though. Obviously, the chain pizzas, the big three, Pizza Hut, Domino's, and Papa John's. Which of those three major chains are the best and in what order? And the problem is the big weakness of local chains is the fact that like whenever you want a pizza, Destiny, it's at degenerate hours. It's like you don't want a pizza when the sun's out. You don't want a pizza whenever you're with your family. You want a pizza whenever you like you're being a pile of shit and it's like 20 minutes to midnight and you want to get delivery for yourself. You know what I mean? Like you don't want at that point local chains are not fucking open. So the spicy debate here is amongst the three shitty chains. Which one's the least shit? If you're craving pizza at 11:40 a.m. and you're single on a Friday night and you're not going out and doing anything, but just gonna go home and have a pizza and then masturbate and then pass out, which chain are you ordering the pizza from? You know what I'm saying? And chat hated me for this one here because like whenever I threw out my tier list, I was like, all right, look, amongst those three chains, certainly Domino's and Pizza Hut and Papa John's are all gonna be three gonna contest here, but I have to bring up that my actual favorite pizza as far as chains go is actually a fourth contender, and that would be Costco. Costco's pizzas when it's made fresh are fucking amazing. Anyone who's not had it is sleeping right now. Y'all not woke, dude.
Costco. Is this like some shit I have to go bake in my own home oven?
No. You walk into Costco and you go to the little deli area. Bake me a fresh pizza. They'll tell you be ready in 25 minutes. Go shopping, grab it on the way out, dude. Costco fucking look at chat right now. Costco fucking pizza, son.
We got a lot of people are agreeing and disagreeing. Okay, I'm looking this up and it does not look that impressive. I don't know, man.
Bro,
are you sure?
On the scale of corporate chains, like if you're gonna get a corporate pizza, I get it's not delivery honestly, but if you go over there and you order you get a full like 18-inch big ass pizza for like $11, it's like comically cheap and it's really fucking good.
Sure.
Obviously it's not delivery, that's the only problem, but like I do gotta bring up it tastes fucking delicious, dude, as far as chain goes. But okay, as far as like now, okay, all right, so I forgot where I was going here. I will something about the DNC versus Bernie. I don't know if you even agreed on that or not, but it's cool though. We can come back to it because we'll have to open this next time, just like have a longer term conversation about it.
Sure.
Holy fuck, dude. Okay, let's see. The other cute topics I had for you here were Oh, okay, this is like this is a cute one. Actually, let's go over the ones in our title right now. The fucking Taco Bell. So Taco Bell recalled 2.3 million pounds of seasoned beef, due to three customer complaints of metal shavings found in the meat. How's it make you feel?
Sounds like a fuck up. Something happened, I guess. How am I supposed to feel about it? Am I
here,
supposed to feel good about that?
No, this was kind of like an open and closed topic here. Taco Bell recalls 2.3 mil.
I mean, I imagine this happens to food places a lot, where somebody finds like a chicken head or something happens or whatever, where people freak out because something gets caught. I mean, fast food serves like millions of people daily, so I'm sure shit like this gets fucked up and happens. So.
Kenosha Beef International was the co-packer who had a facility in Ohio, and all the meat coming out of there got recalled back. And but notably here, I guess I don't know if this is common or not here. It wasn't caught in the facility. This was only caught after a customer like 3 complaints happened about customers finding it in the meat, and then it got recalled. In your history, do you find typically these recalls happen only after a customer finds them, like the salmonella that happens, or like the what was that peanut butter recall that happened a couple years back?
I don't remember, but customers finding things is probably the most common way shit gets noticed, would be my guess, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's kind of an open close thing for you. So that was like a, any Taco Bell fans in chat? So let's see here. Let's move on here. We have here. So Twitter trying to make things more safe here. They're going to restrict users from retweeting world leaders who break its rules.
Restrict? I thought they were just gonna like mark the tweets somehow, but not.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is to specify here further here. Users won't be able to retweet, like, or comment on problematic tweets that Twitter deems against its rules from world leaders. You will only be able to quote tweet the tweet and start your own conversation about it, but you won't be able to engage or boost its metrics. So I don't know how it makes you feel about that one or not here. It's interesting because I guess like for me, what comes to mind here is whenever Trump did the possible escalation of the North Korea conflict, right? And would that have been considered against their rules or whatever? But then they like retroactively, I don't know if you heard this, by the way, whenever I know you heard about Trump doing the North Korea thing, but concerning Twitter specifically here, they had after this happened, people called them out like, well, hey, why didn't you punish Trump for like, endangering everyone by having like escalation with North Korea conflicts or whatever? And then Twitter added a new rule to their rules that they that world what do you say here? The White House is exception to these rules. Like it was like a clause added in terms of service at this point to cover their own ass, and then they kind of moved on with it there. So now the White House has like free reign to do whatever they want to do, and just kind of keep on going from there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. My opinion of this is that like these platforms, like for world leaders, they should probably be allowed to tweet whatever they want, because like that's important for us to be able to see it. And then they should I don't know, you should be able to retweet it because you want to start your own conversations about it or bring attention to it. Like imagine if Trump tweets some crazy shit about global warming or like about like black people being like, from shit countries or whatever racist shit, or Mexicans not being allowed to be judges, or like if Trump tweets some shit that ends up being racist, I want to be able to retweet and start a conversation about it, right? I think that's important. But
yeah, I mean it's kind of weird. I don't know. It's it might even be like a clout thing where they want to like use this rule to like kind of educate everyone that you can quote tweet, because maybe the average Twitter user is not familiar with that thing. They know what a retweet is, maybe they don't know what a quote tweet is at this point. Possibly, I don't know. Just kind of like, not saying they would do it for that sole reason, but like that could be like a side effect benefit that they wanted to like, wow, we have this new tool you can use to communicate in a different way. Quote tweeting, so because like I guess kind of the question is like if you want to restrict engagement with the tweet, then I guess my kind of thing is like, if you can't retweet, then why quote tweet? Maybe I don't know, because like I just feel like that's kind of weird. Let's move on here now though. So I had a really, really small one earlier. This was like forever ago here, but have you ever been to San Francisco?
Yeah.
Okay, so Market Street, the very, very busy street by the bay where they have all the little San Francisco cars, I don't know what they're really called here or whatnot. Well, either way,
not a fan, but go. What about it?
Sure. Well, so this is like a small thing here, but they recently voted and approved here to ban cars from Market Street in downtown SF. So if you haven't been there, it's actually kind of a shit show. So it's a very, very busy street in San Francisco, and the fact that like it's you have like the electric What the fuck's it called, dude? The cars that are like, fuck, I'm calling it a car, dude. Help me out,
Smart
chat.
cars or what?
No, it's like a public transit thing that
The
rides a
BART?
little cable. Yeah,
Is
it's
it
a
called the
BART, but it's like
BART in
above.
San Francisco, or like a tram or a trolley?
The trolley.
Okay.
Yeah, the trolley. I couldn't remember what the fuck it was called. I'm sorry, yo. Yeah, you got like trolleys in the middle of the road. You got like Ubers and Lyfts left and right here. You got pedestrians nonstop. You got bikes, and you got the fucking scooters everywhere. It's complete traffic congestion shithole, honestly. And yeah, they voted to ban cars, and it's going to be a $600 million project that's going to make everything safer. Apparently, it's actually one of the least safe roads for pedestrians in the USA right now, according to the thing I read here earlier. So
I mean, if it like makes it like if they have like the public transport to like change it, then yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So what we're going to do here is only public transit buses, bikes, and legit taxis would be able to go down here. Ubers would not be able to go down here.
Nice.
So we're seeing so my question kind of to you is like do you know anything about taxis? Like what kind of license must one have to operate a taxi? So I feel there's like an implication here. There's like a certain criteria between like an Uber driver versus like a taxi driver.
Well, like in New York City, they have like medallions that I think are really fucking hard to get. I don't know in other cities like what the qualifications are to be like a taxi driver. I'm not sure if it's medallions everywhere or what. But I mean, you have to work for like a real taxi company and everything, so.
Yeah. Do you know anything about how like well, on that point here? Do you know anything about how easy is it to become an Uber driver? Like, do you I know you don't have to do any tests or anything like that, but do you have to literally just like do you literally just like download the Uber app, scan your license, and start driving like right away?
Probably something like that.
Is it that simple?
Yeah, that'd be my guess. Yeah, I don't actually know for sure, but like yeah, maybe they do like a check on your like driver history or something. But yeah,
it's very easy. I wonder. Does that worry you that the screening is that simple that you just like all you got to do to drive? Like I feel like that I wonder how many instances there's been for like Uber drivers who've like I don't know like raped women or like kidnapped people or whatever. I feel it's a very like
I don't think it happens that often. The only reason why I say that is because I feel like if it happened, I feel like every time that does happen, it's like a huge fucking story. Like I think that fuck, was it an Uber driver? I feel like somebody like took a girl home or like tried to rape her or whatever, and it got like a lot of coverage. So like I feel like if stuff like this was happening, these are like so sensational stories. Like I feel like it'd be reported like pretty hardcore.
Yeah. Okay. I never really gave it much thought. I know that obviously like women go through a whole different experience. Like if me and you Ubered somewhere, no big deal. But when a woman Ubers somewhere, it's like you don't want to get dropped at your actual house because you don't want the driver to know where you live to stalk you the next day or whatever. Now they confirm that like a hot girl lives at X point or whatever.
Sure.
So I just I don't know. I guess also at the same time here, if I reverse engineer it, like what kind of screening would I want? Like hearing that there's like, get your car inspected or like there's like not really a screening process at all here. You just kind of become an independent contractor and you just run with it.
Probably just like criminal background check and shit. I don't know. But like if somebody's clean, like, I mean, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah, what are you going to do? All right, let's see what else we got here. If I scroll down here a little bit more here. Oh, well, I guess that's kind of those are all my small ones for you. The last one was the a big one, which you might want to save for next week at this point here. It was going to be our open open versus closed relationships thing, which I was
we'll lead with that one next time, okay?
Yeah, it's all good, baby. It's all good.
Okay.
Phew.
Well, hey, we got through a lot of topics today. It's been fun.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little more about what's going on with your life right now. What are you, because we didn't get to any small talk here at all, actually. I mean, we also didn't finish our red light camera conversation either, by the way.
Well,
what's going on in your life right now? What are you looking forward to doing this week, if anything?
I'm home. I've got like fucking 8 hours of D&D I'm playing this week, and then yeah, I'm just streaming basically. Oh, I've got did you ever listen to my debate with that one crazy conservative lady, the black lady, the Tree of Logic?
Oh yeah, I heard the whole dude.
Round 2 is coming with her this Sunday.
Wait, what?
Yep.
Wait, okay, I gotta hear. Wait, how? Wait.
She emailed me and she said I was slandering her after our last conversation. So now we have a moderator called Sinatra Says, who's like the most milquetoast, agrees with everything conservative dude in the world. So he's gonna moderate. It'll be fun.
Oh my god! Hey, it's good ratings though. Fucking like, even if you lose like half your brain cells, like
half my brain cells for 3 times as many viewers. That's a good trade.
I mean, shit. I mean, fuck it, dude. Can I tell you a very depressing story here?
Yeah, go for it.
You know, there was okay, remember, okay, so the iPad 1, I don't know why I remember the story, it's so random here. The iPad 1, the first generation iPad, came out in 2010. There was a kid, I think in China or Japan, who actually donated one of his kidneys. We have it's two kidneys, right? We have a
Yeah,
right.
most of us have to. Yeah.
Donated one of his kidneys for an iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which like if I recall correctly, a kidney's worth about what 60 grand. But at the time, he wanted the iPad, like actually did that. You know, so like he did that, and I'm sure he's cool as iPad 1 still at this point, and 9 years later. So I mean, for losing half your brain cells that they don't regenerate, they never come back. For for a fat 3x viewer multiple for one day, it's a fair trade-off, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you've done it before. I mean, I've seen you debate dumber people before. So I mean, you're already obviously cool with losing your brain cells on a repeated basis here.
True.
So whether you want to ram your head into a wall and have the same level of IQ drop, or make money while doing it, debating this chick here, and people like that, hey, I think it's all good, fam.
That's capitalism, brother.
Hey, I'm love it, baby. Exactly, dude.
All right.
I could sit here and play games, or I could, if I could put like a little like a golf ball cannon pointed at my ball sack, and tell people to donate 10,000 bits to launch one right at my testicles. And if it means that I'm a millionaire, but I can't have kids within a year of this happening, or a year of doing this, hey, fuck it, I'll adopt. No big deal. I'm rich.
I don't know if I would go that far, but I mean, if you want to do it.
I was trying to think of a cool example.
Go for it. Okay, something that doesn't involve extreme
we didn't talk
testicular
about
pain.
Joker either, dude. Okay, so we got to for real do Joker next week. We got to for real do
100%
next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good episode though.
Yeah. Okay. I gotta take off. So I love you. It's been fun.
All right.
I will catch you next week. Wait. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
Later. They take away his prize money, ban him for a year, and the two broadcasters who were there who didn't even do anything directly related to the one player who